order on this 22nd day of August 2023. Please rise if you're able and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and join with us in a moment of silence. We typically begin our meetings with a moment where we think about the men and women of our armed services and the risks that they face in protecting us each day. But I also want to add two memorials to the moment of silence. So we lost Eileen Mary Truhe. I'm not sure how many knew her, but I did. She was a Sag Harbor resident who died peacefully in her sleep from complications of pancreatic cancer on August 14th. Same age as me, 61. Owner and operator of EMT Governmental Accounting Agency, in which she served multiple villages, fire departments, school districts, and nonprofit organizations on the East End for decades. She had currently been serving as the clerk treasurer for the village of North Haven. Village Mayor Chris Fiore noted that she was one of a kind, a person who cared deeply about the village, its surroundings, its residents, and its natural beauty. She never shirked from her responsibility, was consistently pleasant and cheerful, and always followed up on questions and requests. She'll be sorely missed. Memorial donations may be made to the Sag Harbor Volunteer Ambulance or to the Lustgarten Foundation for Pancreatic Research. And I'll just add that she was a frequent attendee at the East End Supervisors and Mayors Association. So I will personally miss Eileen. And the next sad news that I learned over the weekend, former supervisor of the town of Shelter Island, Jim Doherty, who was a supervisor from 2008 to 2017, he passed away on Saturday, August 19th at the age of 86. Jim was also chair for many years of the East End Supervisors and Mayors Association, the organization I just mentioned. I took over after he stepped down. So we worked together for many, many years. He was a champion of land preservation on Shelter Island, noting that during his time as chairman of the Community Preservation Advisory Board and then as supervisor, he helped preserve the essential character of the island. He is quoted as saying, in reference to his role as a public servant, "I think you are in office to get something done, and if you don't get something done, it's all talk. The idea is to get from A to B. I found out early on when I was a lawyer on Wall Street that perfection drives out the good. You have to go for the good." So that's a quote from Jim Doherty, the late Jim Doherty, a former supervisor of Shelter Island. So we'll remember Eileen Truhe and James Doherty, as well as keeping in our thoughts and prayers all the men and women of our armed services. Let's join together in silence. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you kindly call the roll?
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Present.
Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
Okay, so we have everyone on the board here, and I know there's, I guess, a few things before we get to public hearings. There's one additional resolution that's being asked to be walked on. It's the typical warrant. It's warrant number 16, capital 16, CPF 16, payroll liability. If people want to get paid, we're going to need to pass the warrant. So I'd like to make a motion to walk that on.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, and we'll take that up at the end.
Supervisor, if I may, before we get too far into the business, I'd like to welcome some elected officials here with us tonight. We have a trustee from the Village of Sag Harbor, Aidan Corish, as well as a trustee from the Village of North Haven, Terry Diod. They are here with us as well, presumably for the water quality, part of the water quality hearing that we're going to be here today. And thank you for recognizing Eileen Toohey. I was on the village board in North Haven when we hired her, and she is a true public servant, real attention to detail, and she will be sorely missed.
Thank you, Councilman. So next up, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our August 8th, 2023 meeting.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next, we'll move on to communications. I'll ask our clerk, Cindy Schermeyer, to read the communications.
The following communications have been received in the office of the town clerk. We have received public notices from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation regarding the application of Ironman Realty at 175 Dune Road, West Hampton. Notice of public comment period regarding the proposed program policy DER-41. New York State Department of Public Service, public comment period regarding PSEG Long Island. Town of Riverhead site plan applications for 133 West Main Street and 330 Court Street, Riverhead. Village of Sag Harbor, notice of adoption to designate the Steinbeck property at 2 Bluff Point Lane a landmark in the Village of Sag Harbor. New York State liquor license 30-day advance notice to local municipality, class change for 270 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays, financial disclosure statement filings from the listed individuals, and emails, letters, postcards, and land use applications have been received regarding the following. Bel Air Cove Motel property, Hampton Bays. Battery Energy Storage Systems, BESS, Hampton Bays. Blocking asylum seekers. Non-town residents hunting for profit. Planning Board matter of proposed firehouse substation, Watermill, South Fork Traffic Solution, and a ZBA matter of Lumber Lane A, LLC. Zoning Board of Appeals application received for 106 Cold Spring Point Road, Tuckahoe. Bid and request for proposals were received on August 16th, 2023 for the Reeves Bay Catwalk and Barn Restoration and Tiana Life Saving Station Restoration, both for CPF. And that concludes the communications for this meeting's agenda.
Thank you, Cindy.
Got that too.
Numbers are all over the place. All right, so tonight is a hybrid meeting. So we have people who are not only watching from home and other locations, but also able to participate via a Zoom platform. And there'll be a time for comments to be heard from our remote audience as well. So we're going to go to public hearings, and I'm going to ask the clerk to read the first public hearing notice. This one is not going to, the second one is going to be the longer one. So let's take care of the first one, and then we'll move on to the water quality one.
Public hearing number 1, to accept open space in connection with the planned residential cluster plan and density incentive subdivision map of Zarabi Family Trust site approved by the Southampton Town Planning Board on March 10th, 2022.
All right, and Deputy Town Attorney Christine Scalera will introduce us.
Hello, good evening, Supervisor, members of the board. For your consideration is the acceptance of a 7.720 acre area of open space in connection with the 3-lot planned residential development cluster plan and density incentive plan for an approximately 12-acre parcel located in the CR 200 zoning district, the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, and on the CPF's acquisition priority list. I've put up a map, as the board can see. I told Charles I wouldn't talk while I step away. So this is the open space parcel, and it is surrounded. Coming back, sorry, Charles. It is surrounded by other protected open space parcels as well. The open space acquisition is in furtherance of a subdivision approval granted by the Planning Board on March 10th, 2022, in connection with said parcels located at 349 Great Hill Road in the hamlet of North Sea, known as the Zarabi Family Trust. The applicant was able to utilize a density incentive provision to get the third lot by transferring in a full development right from 2 sending parcels also located in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. The first lot is located on Noyak Path in Watermill for .50 or 1/2 a right, and the second lot is located on Deerfield Road, North Sea, for another .50 or 1/2 a right, totaling 1 full credit, all within the same school district. If the board is so inclined, after taking comment, I would recommend closing the public hearing, and a resolution of adoption would be on the next agenda.
All right, thank you, Christine. All right, any questions for Christine? Okay, let me see if I have anybody indicating they wish to be heard. No, let me just ask the audience, is there anyone who wishes to be heard at this first public hearing on this open space plan for this subdivision? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll go to our online audience. Is there anyone looking to be heard at the first public hearing, not the water quality one? This is it's a cluster subdivision. It's accepting the open space portion.
No, sir.
Okay, if you're watching online and you wish to be heard at this hearing, you need to click the raise hand icon. I'll give one more moment. Okay. No hands, perfect. All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the second public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 2, to consider the wastewater treatment projects proposed for 2023 Community Preservation Fund, CPF 20% Water Quality Improvement Plan funding.
All right, thank you, Sunny. We have Jacqueline Fenley.
Yes.
Who's our CPF Program Manager, here to introduce us.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and Town Council members. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight to discuss the first 11. So these are more the wastewater projects that we're looking at tonight. We tried to group them together so that you're going to be seeing IA systems, wastewater treatment facilities, STPs, requests to facilitate those. So this would be for the wastewater treatment. We do have a total of 23 applications that we received this year. So the program is continuing to grow, and we're doing really good things. We worked very diligently. This year we opened the round in February of 2023 and closed the round in March 15th. So we accepted applications during that time. And this, as you know, this is 20% of CPF revenue can go towards water quality projects. So tonight we do have 11 before you. We will be going in order. We also tried to streamline the memo this year, so your memo and recommendations will go in line with the projects that we're hearing tonight, so that way we don't have to flip back and forth. So it should be easier to follow along. But so we'd be first starting with the wood chip biofilter polishing units in commercial IA systems. So I'll just list these and then I'll open it up to the presenters for each grant application. So this is a wastewater treatment project. It's located throughout the town. So they're going to do several of these throughout the town. And this is with the New York State Center for Clean Water Technology. The request is $123,619. The second on the agenda is St. John's Constructed Treatment Wetland, also from New York State Center of Clean Water and Technology, for a total of $135,075. Next, we will be proceeding to Sewer Shed K and L, which is a supplemental request. So this is also a wastewater treatment facility for Sag, and it will treat Sag Harbor Cove and is sponsored by the Village of Sag Harbor. The requested funding here is $896,567. And then next, number 4 is a Village Hall sanitary system. This is for the Incorporated Village of North Haven. So they are proposing an IA system, which will benefit the watershed of, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but Gannett's Creek. And that is $73,250. Moving on to number 5 on the agenda tonight will be Riverside Phase 1 sewer system, which is again a wastewater treatment project. This is impacting the watersheds of the Peconic River, Little Peconic River, and the Peconic Estuary as a whole. This project sponsor is the town of Southampton for $7.5 million. Number 6 is a sanitary sewer connection. So this is from West Hampton Beach Performing Arts to connect to the existing STP at Gabreski. They are requesting this to tap in at $18,700. Number 7 is a sewer system design and engineering. This is sponsored by the Village of Southampton. This would impact Lake Agawam and the South Shore Estuary, and they have requested $1,739,430. Number 8 on the agenda is the Hampton Bay Sewer District Sewer Planning and Feasibility Study. So this is for wastewater treatment improvement. This would impact the watersheds of Tiana Bay, Shinnecock Bay, and the South Shore Estuary. And this, again, is a sponsored project by the town of Southampton for the planning and feasibility study for $250,000. Phase 2, which is number 9, this is from Sag Harbor Village, and this is impacting the watersheds of Sag Harbor Cove, Upper Sag Harbor Cove, and Otter Pond. They have requested $1,498,475. And the town is also working with the Southampton Town Animal Shelter to put in a new IA system for number 10, which is going to impact the watersheds of Great Peconic Bay, Shinnecock Bay, Tiana Bay, and Southampton Animal Shelter is the project sponsor, in consultation with our town engineer and town of Southampton. So that is requested for $286,000. And then lastly is the Hampton Arms Septic Improvement Project. This is going to impact the watershed of Tiana Bay, and this is, the project sponsor is Hampton Arms, also known as 61 West Tiana Owners Incorporated. They are requesting a total amount of $609,091.90. So we are here today to take public comments. We are gonna go in order, so, if you'd like to start with number 1, which is the wood chip biofilter polishing units. They're actually both being presented by New York State Clean Water, Center for Clean Water and Technology, the same representative. And then you should have before you, we have project summary sheets, which are also on the wall here. And then we're gonna try to make it available, also on the Zoom for viewers to follow along. So you can follow along with this booklet for each presentation.
Okay, thank you. So I do have cards, so how do we want to do this?
I think we would have the presenter
Yeah.
first for each, and then I guess ask
Did
if
the
there's any.
presenters put in cards, maybe?
Did any of the presenters fill out cards?
What's your-
You did, okay.
why don't we just go in the order of that you just read them?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll bring up whoever
Number 1
is
presenter.
connected to that. So why don't we start with the first project, the nitrogen reducing wood chip biofilter polishing units in commercial IA systems?
Correct, yes.
Who's here to present on that? Sir?
Mr. Dunbar.
If you'll identify yourself, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to explain the project.
Hi, my name's Bud Dunbar. I'm a consultant for the New York State Center for Clean Water Technology. The first project, I'm going to present 2 projects to you. The first one is a wood chip box polishing unit that sits between an advanced septic system and the leaching field. And so what's happening in these commercial IA systems like Fuji Clean and HydroAction and all of them, they do a really good job of bubbling air up through the wastewater, which then oxidizes ammonium and turns it into nitrate. But a lot of the nitrate then just flows out to the cesspool and then out into the ground. So when you look at it like a Fuji Clean or HydroAction, they're averaging something like 13.5 milligrams per liter for their final effluent. But when you look at that, it's really more like 10 milligrams of that is nitrate. These polishing units will eliminate almost 90% of the nitrate. So this project is it's going to be effective in reducing a certain amount of nitrate and nitrogen as a just these 8 sites. but it really is going to be to advance the cause of getting these commercial vendors to pay attention to denitrifying the nitrate that they produce. So this project is more important as a demonstration than it is as a remedial action. But we'll be putting these systems on a combination. Like we'll try to put 2 of them on Fuji Clean Systems, 2 on HydroAction, 2 on each of the leading vendors, so we get a really good sampling. And we're going to watch these systems very carefully every month for 3 years to show, to look at the effluent from the IA system and compare that to the effluent from the wood chip box. So maybe you folks have probably already read this and you have some questions about it, and I'll just stop here and just take questions on this one, and then I'll go to St. John's.
So, Bud, just explain a little bit the difference between nitrogen and nitrate.
Yeah, so nitrate is a oxide of nitrogen, so it's NO3, okay? And nitrite is NO2. So those are ions that are in the water that are formed from ammonium when ammonium is oxidized. So NH4 with nitrogen is in ammonium. So nitrogen is an atom that's in a molecule, okay? And so nitrate and ammonium are molecules that have nitrogen in them. So when we encounter the nitrogen coming out of a house, it's usually coming in the form of urea, which then turns into ammonium, which then turns into nitrate and goes out into the environment. And when we see stuff coming into the bays and estuaries and in our groundwater, it's almost all in the form of nitrate. But the ammonium is really the cause. So what these IA systems do is they destroy the ammonium and they break it down into nitrate, but then the nitrate just flows out into the environment.
So what this is a series of pilot programs to add to currently existing IA systems to see if we can get the nitrate levels down to a more acceptable level than we're currently.
Yeah, we know we're going to get the nitrate down. We'll get 90% of the nitrate out of those systems, but this will demonstrate it. And also the county has been thinking about funding polishing units, and so this will give a lot of ammunition to that discussion.
Thanks.
Okay.
She's off.
Any other questions?
How many units altogether?
8.
It's just essentially a box filled with wood chips.
And water, yeah. So the wood chips have to be underwater, and then carbon from the wood chips gets used up in the denitrification process.
So the effluent from the IA system, it enters at the bottom of the wood box?
That's correct, yeah. And it floats up through it.
Okay. And the box is like a fiberglass container, or?
It's going to be, fiberglass reinforced plastic, probably. Yeah, and that probably, definitely. Yeah.
Is this a gravity-fed system?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, that
Yeah. There'll be
The initial-
Yeah. So we're going to put these in new construction sites, rather than try to retrofit them into an existing home, because the hydraulic profile will be easier to figure out that way.
Okay, the feed's from the top and it has a manifold on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. And then it exits through the top too.
Any other questions?
I think this project, if it works right and we and this technology gets adopted in 25% of the houses that we expect to put IA systems in, this will eliminate more nitrogen than any project that you guys will see in a long time. This is hundreds of thousands of pounds of nitrogen.
Hmm. And it's a good bang for the buck, too.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So the bang for the buck is comparable to a FujiClean system. It's like $21 per pound compared to, that's 21.5 or something like that.
How often do the wood chips have to be?
How often do they? Yeah, so I could answer that in a lot of ways, but we've measured it for 15 years, and there are studies out of Waterloo in Canada that go much farther than that. So we're pretty comfortable saying 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, but
For a single
you
set
know,
of
you
wood
think
chips.
about some of these yachts or boats that sunk in Scandinavia, and they got unearthed 1,100 years later, and they're in perfect condition. So, yeah, we don't need a lot of carbon,
Okay.
but we need some.
Okay. And was there anybody here else on this first proposal who wanted to comment? All right, Bud, you want to move on to the second one?
So the second one is also important. This is at St. John's Church, and like many churches out here on the East End, they got a letter from the EPA saying that their large cesspool was in violation. And if they had to replace that system, I don't think they have the means to do that. And there's St. John's might, but there's a lot of churches that don't, and there's a lot of other organizations that are in the same boat. But churches release wastewater in big slugs. It's sort of like a pig in a python. That the water is all on Sunday, and then it just sits there for a week, and it's kind of a different dynamic. And these constructed wetlands are good for that kind of flows. And so this is every year the center kind of focuses on a new technology, and you know, we've gone through different kinds of wood chip box treatment systems, and this is a constructed wetland which uses the biology of the root system of the plants to kind of supplement the treatment. And the numbers are really good. Like, we're getting down into 2 and 3 milligrams per liter with these systems. And like I said, they're very good at handling kind of large slugs of high load waste, which is typical of a church. So we've partnered with an engineering firm called RU on these, and RU has done a lot of constructed wetlands. I think they're the best engineering firm we could find to help us with this, and we're doing one at the Pollock Krasner House and Bridge Gardens, and this one. And we hope to do 5 more. Get those, so we'll get this technology past the experimental and pilot stage and into the provisional stage, where they can be eligible for SIP funding.
Yeah, I think I think this is important for a lot of reasons, because our flows, you know, we always calculate them in a consistent way, but we actually don't produce wastewater in a consistent flow, particularly in large buildings like churches or schools or areas where people congregate, a large amount of people congregate, and you get a big hit of waste as opposed to.
I'm sorry, John, my hearing's not
It's
very
probably
good.
my math, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm just saying that this serves a different purpose here. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Where we have large congregations of people, as
Yeah.
opposed to having a steady flow all the
Exactly.
time. And I
Yeah.
think that's critical to be able to manage, to measure those two
Yeah.
remedies side by side, so.
Yeah. Either that, or you just over-design the hell out of it.
Yeah, right. yeah.
Well, if we step back to the microphone.
Thanks.
So these,
Sorry.
And this is the same system that was put in the Mashashamua Park and is before the health department right now, right?
No,
Or is it
the
slightly different? Okay.
Mash Park, we put two lined NRB systems in. So a lot of the same principles at work,
Mhm.
but this has got the added component of the marsh plants that sit on top of it.
That's right.
Yeah,
so you need more area for something like this than
a
typically?
little bit. Yeah,
Just a
yeah,
little bit more?
yeah. It'll fit in this space here. So that's
The whole room or just a section?
no, just from the chairs over.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's not that much more.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's just a depression? It looks like a bog of some sort, a little,
No, it'll actually look like a shabby garden.
Like a rain garden?
We'll put local plants in it. And Rue has a whole list of,
now the wastewater is still subsurface.
yeah, there's not gonna be any surface exposure to odors
So
or
it's-
anything
It's
like
sort of in
that.
the root zone, so you need plants with
Yeah,
deep enough
The
roots.
yeah, yeah.
And is there enough oxygen, I guess there is, in the soil that can,
Well,
help
so,
with the
so in
nitrogen
this case,
efficiency.
we're gonna trickle it down through a sand bed first, and then into the constructed wetland. So the constructed wetland is where the denitrification happens, and the sand bed is where the nitrification happens. So the nitrification is the destruction of the ammonia, and then the denitrification is the destruction of nitrate.
okay, so it's a two-step process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sand beds have a lot of air in between the sand particles, so that's how you get the oxygen
is
into the
there-
water.
Like typically with a conventional sanitary system where you have a septic tank, and then you have your cesspool, and eventually your cesspool clogs up, it silts up, and your septic tank also fills up, and so you have to get that pumped. These types of systems, is there a sludge that builds up somewhere that you have to remove at some point, or is it
Well,
continue to sort of self-maintain?
yeah, so these have a septic tank before them. So
Step
the
back a little bit, please.
step, I'm sorry, is that better?
So there's still a septic tank?
There's still a septic tank to catch the solids and the grease and stuff. And
But
then
instead of the cesspool, or might even have a cesspool at the end of the system?
the cesspool, if a cesspool plugs up, then you're not doing something right upstream of that.
Right.
Okay, so if yeah, so this
it's
sort of,
sort of a step, a normal IA system is sort of a step between the septic tank and the cesspool.
and this is the same, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but now, there is no cesspool in this system because the marsh is your drainage.
No, there is a there's a
There is
a leaching
after
field,
the-
yeah,
After the
Yeah.
constructed wetland,
yeah,
there's a cesspool?
yeah.
So how does it migrate through the constructed wetland and gather itself back into a cesspool?
There's some piping that catches the water, and it
So
flows.
is there like a liner?
Again,
down-
it's sort of like the wood chip box. It
So
yeah,
under the constructed wetland, there's a liner
yeah,
that's gonna catch any water that drops down
yeah,
and then channel it into
right,
a cesspool?
yeah.
Okay.
So what's your expected output from that?
I'm sorry?
What's your expected stay there, because what's your expected output from that system in nitrate?
So the effluent, total nitrogen effluent from the constructed wetland before it gets to the leaching field, we think that's going to be down below 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's,
this-
we don't think that's what's happened
still a
in
pilot.
prior projects.
So the first one's like this polisher. It's already gone through an IA system, and in this one, there's no IA system.
That's right.
This constructed wetland is the IA system.
That's right, yeah.
And so you're hoping one day that that could be approved by the county as an alternative to,
IA systems,
you
yeah.
know.
And these are
you know,
non-proprietary.
But there's also, the UN mentioned, I think it's a NRB,
Mhm.
nitrogen reducing.
Reducing
bio-
biofilter, yeah,
So this does the same job as the NRB. as
yes,
well.
yeah.
Do you see an advantage to one versus the other?
Well, these are producing better total nitrogen in final effluent numbers. And they are also, like I said, better at handling big slugs of flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they did to take up a little
It's
bit
quite
more-
interesting because
takes up a little more room, because you said there's a
Yeah.
sand section and then there's the constructed wetland.
and it's quite interesting because these roots are largely dormant in the winter. And yet there's something that's happening in the biology that's benefiting the processes that, that remove the nitrogen.
This is how nature cleans the water, right?
Yeah, it's literally, yeah.
Poop's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Nature's
but
been
we're
processing
we're gonna send our people out
Yeah,
and,
you're right,
and take samples and stuff. It's gonna be really interesting to see what's really going on in there.
So it's really, you're just using a natural process.
Yeah, both the NRB projects and the constructed wetlands are all natural processes that are non-proprietary. And the hope is that over time, the contractors that don't have a proprietary license for one of the commercial systems will be able to put these systems in. These systems do a better job. Right now, they're more expensive, but that's because the contractors don't really know what they're dealing with, and
Well, they're not approved yet either.
Um, well,
But assuming they get approved,
yeah, the
the cost could
NRBs
come
are
down
the
once-
NRBs are far along, but
it seems like most of the materials involved with these systems are readily available. It's,
most of the what?
the raw materials, the
Oh.
construction materials are
Oh
readily.
yeah, we're
wood
talking
chips,
sand and wood. Yeah, yeah,
Plants, how expensive can it be?
yeah. Versus electricity and pumps and
Is there no-
valves.
There must be some pumps involved with this, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But not a lot of moving parts.
And then there's also bypass in case the pumps fail.
Okay.
So to me, the thing that, I just want to reiterate with both of these is that we're dealing with areas where you have larger congregations of people, and as you say, as you described, slugs of wastewater that do not come at a consistent rate.
That's right.
And in those areas, more than likely, you have more space to do these kinds of things and try to provide a more natural methodology to remove the nitrate.
Yeah, you got it.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah, do you provide the maintenance for the system as well?
So the contractor that does the construction signs up for the first 3 years of maintenance on them. And then after that, the church will have to contract with somebody to do that maintenance for them. But that somebody will most likely be the person that installed it.
Well,
But
that would make
but
sense.
that maintenance is something that any contractor or plumber could do. It's not, it's
Pretty well
not the kind of
maintenance,
rocket science that is involved in maintaining some of the commercial systems.
I'm not personally familiar with the system, but I would imagine under the constructed wetlands, the French drain kind of screened system is going to have some possible issues with, clogging or water flow or.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It just, there should be a maintenance component to this,
Yeah. So
plumbing.
I think under Article 19, you have to provide 3 years of maintenance.
Okay.
And so that's what we propose. And if you think more than that's necessary, we'd have to kind of restructure it a little bit.
Well, there's again, this is a pilot, I'm gonna learn a lot here, which
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah.
And then.
Thank you, yeah, yeah.
All right, so, everybody good?
Yeah.
Good.
All right, thank you, Bud.
Okay. Thank you, guys. This
Thanks.
is- I like this project.
You can tell.
I want a tour.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the third one, construction of sewer shed K and L supplemental request. Who is presenting on this one? Ada, okay.
Good evening,
Good
Supervisor Schneiderman. I'm on board. I am Aidan Corish, Sag Harbor Village Trustee and liaison to the sewage treatment plant and to grant writing in the village.
Lucky you.
Yes, absolutely. I get all good jobs. I'd like to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity this evening to make this presentation and thank the CPF Water Quality Committee for recommending our projects to you. I'm going to keep this as brief as possible, as is our brief for this evening. I'm also accompanied by John Parker, who's worked with me on this. We have 2 applications in front of you. I don't know if it would be time-saving for the board to run through them together
Yeah,
at this.
that'd be helpful.
Okay, so we can do that. So I'm going to deal with sewer shed K and L. And as some of you may know, but a quick recap, the Village of Sag Harbor, we recently completed a comprehensive update of our sewer master plan, and that provides guidance and recommendations to the village for protecting, upgrading, and expanding critical assets that help the villages to protect the village's waters. The next phase of sewer construction to improve groundwater quality as well as water quality in the Sag Harbor bays is to connect sewer sheds K and L to the Sag Harbor wastewater treatment plant. We heard some discussion tonight of milligrams per liter IA systems, I guess around 19. The sewage treatment plant is licensed for 10. It usually puts out between 3 and 4 milligrams per liter. It operates really well. It's an amazing asset for the village to have, and we have excess capacity. And we have a lot of homes in the village where their septic systems are sitting in groundwater. We all know groundwater is not getting any lower. And so we have set out a number of years ago to try and connect these homes to the sewage treatment plant so we could make the best use of that asset and help clean the waters. You've been very generous up until now in helping us fund this project from the very beginning. I think we're probably in our 4th year. But the CPF grant application is currently pending before you and before the East Hampton Town Board, because as you know, we're split between East and South. Some of these sewer sheds, sewer shed L, actually overlaps. There's a number of homes in the town of Southampton that will be connected to sewer shed L, which lies mainly in the town of East Hampton. So it gets a little bit tricky, but we have divided those in our applications. So the planned expansion of sewer shed K, we've already listed this as a multi-year project under 2023 New York State Clean Water Revolving Funds. We understand that any grants we would be awarded here are reimbursement grants, so the village will obviously have to have a facility to finance this work in advance of receiving the grant reimbursement. So we would hope when we get to a contract stage, we might be able to work out some sort of staged rolling over of that would reduce the amount of money that the village would need to get to, you know, whether it be a 2 million rollover or 4 million rollover, but that's something we would have to discuss at some stage. And that's part of their intended use plan, and it's so we're eligible for SRF financing. The same is true for sewer shed L. It's also listed as a multi-year project, so sewer shed L, should the town of East Hampton come through with the funding, that we're also eligible for the rollover financing so that we can finance this project from the get-go. The environmental review for these projects is complete, and the contract documents are complete, ready to bid, and SECRA is complete on these projects. The village, so far, we've received for sewer shed K $2,340,536 in grant funding from Southampton CPF for sewer sheds K, and currently we have an application before you tonight for further $896,567, and that would provide what we believe to be full funding for sewer shed K based on all the analysis we've done and advice from our engineering consultants, Cameron Engineering. As you know, we haven't got a bid for any of this because we really don't feel like going to bid until we have our funding secured. So we're hoping that our estimates and the reality will dovetail in a positive way for us. But in the environment that we're in right now, nobody really knows. Inflation is running rampant. Things change prices very quickly. But we're ready to go. As soon as we are fully funded, all of our homework is done and we feel we're ready to go to bid. We've already received approvals for $1,648,359 in grant funding from East Hampton for Sewer Shed L, and we currently have an application with the town for $4.6 million, which would provide full funding for L. Last year we applied to the state for funding because we're going to every resource that we can find, and despite receiving the highest possible score in the competitive funding round, we were not selected. Higher priority was afforded to other project types, especially systems with consent orders. They were failing systems upstate New York, and a lot of the clean water money went there to fix our system. You know, fortunately, runs really well, but it sort of puts us down on the New York State scale for funding because it's we're not a case that needs immediate action because we're not polluting. So we have reapplied this year. We sent in our applications this year, and so we're looking at multiple sources. It's a difficult project. It's obviously an awful lot of money. We appreciate that. And so the timing of different grant funds means that sometimes these applications overlap. Last year, traditionally, we would find out from the state of New York in December if we had been successful or not. Unfortunately, this year, we didn't find out till March. There were, as opposed to all of the awards being made at the same time, they were broken up into different sections. I don't know why. We've got no reason for that. So we did not know until March this year that we had not been successful. One of the issues when we applied in 2022, for state funding, we have to have a 25% local match. We had not been awarded any of the CPF grants at the time we made the state application, so we couldn't tick the box to say that our local match was assured. This year we can. There's a few more points in that. So we're hopeful. Should we be funded from multiple sources, obviously we'd have to come back if the state came through with funding and you came through with funding for the same project. Obviously we'd have to come back and talk about that. I don't really know how to deal with that tonight, but I guess that would be a good position to be in, whether that funding could be applied to other aspects of water quality in Sag Harbor, got to do with the sewer, which John's going to introduce right now, because this is the beginning. We have another 200 homes we want to sewer in the village, and that's the second phase. And I'm going to hand it over to...
Before you do it, just
Yep.
on this, so we've already funded a whole portion of the K&L, right?
Yes, you have.
And then this is an additional 44 homes, or?
This is, we weren't fully, for the original project, we're not fully funded. So we went to the state, and the state turned us down for the reasons that I just illustrated. So we're coming back and just asking for more.
But I'm just trying to understand, I understand this $800, almost $900,000 is for the 44 homes.
Correct.
But of the other $2 million that was related to K&L too, right? Was that other homes?
No, that's the same homes.
Is this the same 44 homes?
The same 44 homes.
So the total cost is about $3 million?
That is correct, yeah. I mean, we're talking about 100-year infrastructure.
So we're talking about like $100,000 per home?
That is correct.
Would it have been better just to, because, the IA systems are about $30,000 to $40,000 per home.
The reason we've identified these homes that they're not suitable for IA systems, that the groundwater is so high that we would have to raise whole sections of the village to install these, and in K especially, which is, if you're obviously familiar with Sag Harbor, it's Rose Street, Bridge Street, it's everything to the west of Main Street, all the way down Long Island Avenue. Water table there is barely below the surface, and a lot of these properties are not big enough to be able to have an IA system. We looked at that extensively, and that's how we came up with our categorization in the village as to, we scored all these homes as to whether they could have an IA system. And if IA systems would work, that would be it, but they're not applicable to these homes. As well with sewering, once you run the pipe, there's a requirement. You can't really cherry pick homes, because once the main pipe is in the right of way, if the pipe passes your home, you're obliged to connect by Suffolk County. So there's so many different overlapping criteria. Also, you got to think, we talked or tonight you heard that, that an IA system may be good for 30 years, but I don't think any IA systems have been in the ground for 30 years. We are looking at infrastructure that it's good for a century. I mean, the infrastructure in Sag Harbor right now that we're using that's performing to these levels was put in the 70s. And some of the main piping was there before that because there was always a pipe in Main Street that ran out. So we're looking at, I think it's hard to compare them. We're also taking out, instead of 19 milligrams, if you want to talk about dollars spent per pound of nitrogen removed, sewage treatment plants is outputting at 3 to 4, licensed for 8 to 10. So we're 6 times as good as an IA system. So if you think an IA system's $30,000, we're operating at 6 times that as far as nitrogen removal. It suddenly puts things in a different perspective. And also I think it's important not to look at this as houses served. It's basically our whole goal of motivation here is to clean the water. And that's something that everybody shares. And it doesn't really matter where the pollution is coming from. Once it gets to the water, it's everybody's problem. And so when we identified these homes, they are without doubt the most polluting homes in the village. And through no fault of their own, just the nature of the land in the village and how homes were built over
So, but
a
the
long period.
homeowners are not contributing a penny toward it? They just,
The homeowners will have to,
They're-
the homeowners will have to pay for the use in perpetuity. They will have a rent fee on the infrastructure, and they'll have a use fee that will be based on Suffolk County water. So the homeowners will pay. We're also considering, the entire village of Sag Harbor is a sewer district, and we have 7 service areas within that district. It's basically, it is the commercial district right now. There are very few homes that are connected. And we're looking at the idea that clean water is everybody's responsibility, and some of us have IA systems, very, very few. We did a little study on the uptake of IA systems in Sag Harbor, the voluntary uptake, and if it kept going at the same pace, it would be 100 years before, thereabouts, before the village was fully taken up with IA systems. John, I think you...
Yeah, no, I did the math on it. I think it was 133 years at the current rate before we'd have the balance of the homes in the village on IA systems.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable. It's not going to have any impact on the, on the water quality.
Let me jump in quickly, because, first of all, the IA systems, their rating was set at 16.
I beg your pardon.
16.
Okay, sorry for the record.
Well,
Yeah.
but the point I'm
Yeah.
trying to make is that this was a number that was imposed on us by the county in order to put these systems in. So I applaud you for trying to go lower than that. You know well, with some of the IA systems, when we get measurements, we're sometimes down at that number, depending on rainfall and other kinds of things. Our current law requires, is mandating the system into new and new home construction. Obviously, the village has some other things, but the money that comes from CPF is in the 0 to 2 travel zone. So I just want to let the people know that that rate is probably true now, but it will increase when we widen the mandate, which we're getting ready to do. And we were hopeful to be able to work with the county for the referendum that never got tabled and never
Correct.
transpired, which really set things back quite a lot. So I'm hoping that will come back next year. But also, the board may recall, we all sat here with the county at one point, particularly, I can't remember the engineer's name, but there is an issue with IA systems, and you're absolutely right, in water. Particularly IA systems that are close to intrusion areas and rising water. And we know that. So we know also that we need to do this kind of project to widen our ability to treat our water. So I just want to clarify
I
those
appreciate it.
points.
Yeah, the per home subsidy is more than I'm used to. It's significantly higher on if we had to do that throughout the town, it would exhaust our funds very quickly. But it seems like it's a very positive thing, so I'll consider it in that light. But I just wanted to ask you, because you do have a sewage treatment plant, we don't have that many of them, and you happen to have one, and it happens to be downtown.
Yes.
In the village.
Yes.
And it happens to be in an area where there's lots of people.
Yes.
I've walked by it 100 times. I've never smelt it. I've never had any adverse impacts that I'm aware of. Has there been problems with it? Because
There's,
you've probably been following in the news all of our challenges in trying to get sewage treatment plants located.
right. The technology used in Sag Harbor is called sequence batch reactor, and without getting into the weeds on it, it's essentially a very natural aeration, oxyfying and deoxifying, so that we, as you heard earlier from Bud, of taking the urea into ammonium and then treating it. It's a very natural process. There's no chemicals being added. There's basically oxygen. Sometimes there's polymers to help for settling, so the solids settle to the bottom. There's only one part of the process that will cause a problem with odors.
It's an open-air system.
It's an open-air system, yeah, and that's when we remove sludge. We can treat millions of gallons of inflow, and then we'll treat 99% of it, but there's only a certain amount of dewatering we can do there, so there are sludge tanks, and that sludge is pumped away.
Can you step to the left, please?
Oh, sorry, that sludge is pumped away, and then we used to send it to Riverhead. Now it has to go further up island because they won't take it anymore. When that sludge is being pumped, it has to be activated to make it liquid, and that creates an issue. But we have a cover on that tank with a big carbon filter scrubbers, and that has helped mitigate that. And we also have a spray system for deodorizing. So to your point, there are times when there will be sort of a heavy, wet aroma, hard to figure out what it is. We have had, in the last 12, I guess in the last 3 or 4 years, I have had no official complaints made to the village about aroma, like that have shown up as that someone has gone to the village and said, one of the biggest issues we have down there is when the pump-out boat comes in for the boats, there's an open tank in Marine Park, which is almost co-located with the sewage treatment plant. And when the lid is when they lift the lid on that, that can certainly scare the pigeons.
But that's not the sewage.
That's not the sewage treatment
Just
plant,
people
yeah.
think it is.
Yeah.
I had an office near there for many years.
Yeah.
And the aroma I smelled was from the coffee roaster.
Well, that's good.
And that wasn't so bad. I
Yeah.
can't think of
No.
one occasion when I
Yeah.
smelled anything related.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's because you had the odor neutralizers.
Well, that's only been there for the last 18 months.
Oh, okay.
And we're looking at the technology in that plant is pretty old. If you're going to build a new plant, it would probably be a membrane system, which is completely different, better output, not as many moving parts, much easier to control remotely. We've upgraded the plant with a certain amount of computer control, which has helped a little in automating.
And then you discharge into the bay?
Into the bay. So everything goes through the tanks.
That's a potable, that's
That,
actually.
yeah, I mean, the water
drinkable.
goes out. There's a lab down there, so we're checking 8-10 times a day as to what the output is, and everything eventually goes through big ultraviolet light baths, and that's what kills the coliforms that are left in. So there's no, I guess when the plant was built first, there was, we were using added chemical to kill the coliform, but now it's all ultraviolet light. And that's got 100% redundancy, 2 tanks.
Chlorine.
It was chlorine, yeah. We were adding chlorine, I guess, back then, but that hasn't happened for, I don't know.
That's- yeah, that's
Since
an old
since as
technology.
long as I've been there, it's been ultraviolet lights.
Okay.
So every time you've all been here, you've also been to the town of East Hampton.
We've been here at
Sag
town of
Harbor's
East Hampton,
bifurcated
we've
by-
been to the state of New York. I mean, we're a small community, and we've 2,000 people. We're right on the water. In some places, we're right in the water, to be honest. And we're a shared community. I think everybody participates, and once the outflow's in the water, it belongs to everybody. We all share that, so our goal has never been to service anybody's home. I'd love if my house could be connected to the sewage treatment plant, but I'm just not in any of those areas. And it's to identify the most polluting homes in the village, and we have the resource of the plant is already there. And so the idea that we would allow this unused capacity to sit there in perpetuity while these homes are polluting in perpetuity doesn't make sense to me. And I appreciate that it's eye-watering money. It's kind of crazy, but I think everybody's finding that out now as we start to look at trying to sewer. And even with us, we're very dense.
Well, what's the value restoring the water quality of our bays.
Well, as the
Priceless.
water, it's priceless, because as the water goes, so goes everything out here. It underpins everything we do and everything we are.
It's priceless.
It is priceless,
So you'll
so.
be pursuing state grants again.
We have grants into the state as well, and as I say, if the state comes through, then obviously we can change the conversation. But I really appreciate you taking the time and have the
Thank
interest
you,
in this.
and John, thank you.
John, thank you. Okay.
Let me just answer some of your questions. You asked East Hampton next week. We have a presentation before them. Yes, every time we've come here, we've asked East Hampton. It's a little different system, a little different cost variation between the right-of-way and the homeowner costs. And we have a bigger, let's say, hole for not receiving the state grant in East Hampton than we do here. I think the point of coming to you here for K is that we're talking about $900,000 to be able to go in and do the construction and get that number one priority area in the village, done and over with. We've put in another state grant application that would cover that if we're given it, but our grant writer and others tell us that there's not a whole lot of chance that we're going to get it, because they're going to use the same criteria that they used last year, which resulted in no money for expansion programs and all the money going to rectify failing systems. So that's why we're coming to you and really asking, let's get this money, let's do it, let's get the construction done, and then go on to the next stage.
So John, you're gonna now talk about the other project, Phase 2, sewer shed expansion area, engineering?
Which is number 9.
Yes, I'm going to be very brief.
Okay.
Okay? Again, we have a plant that is licensed for 250,000 gallons per day. We're using about 150,000 gallons. We want to use up that extra 100,000 gallons. It just doesn't make sense to have a well-operating plant that's only running at 2/3 or less capacity. So our plan, the master plan that you help fund, is to use up that capacity by sewering properties. Now, K takes 30-some properties, L takes 30-some properties, but we want to do 200 more. Or so. And that's what the engineering is for that we're requesting. We're requesting that money to go to the next area in terms of priority. In other words, K is first, L is second, and then it's what we're calling Phase 2 or I, where it's the next areas in priority based upon environmental criteria. And we need the funds to do the engineering, to plan that out, so that then we can come back once we've done that and request from you and from the state and any other source we can find the money to do the construction in that area. So this is all tied together as in terms of reaching that goal. And part of that goal is to sewer a substantial portion of the village. In other words, roughly 1,800 properties. We've only got about 140 that are sewered right now. K and L are going to add maybe 70, 80. But the big add-on is still to come, and that's what we need the engineering for.
So one suggestion is you might talk with Joyce Novak, Dr. Novak, with the Peconic Estuary Partnership. We've had some interesting conversations about exactly the problem that you're faced with in other parts of our municipality, that we're not able to access those monies that we would like to. It's not just the sewage district that's proposed by the county, but it's state sources of money and federal sources of money. And they're pretty versed on that. It was a really good meeting. And actually could just, reach out to my office and I'll get you those details. But I think that's another source of money that we're seeing. It's probably the only opportunity we're going to have this kind of money available for these kinds of projects in the next 5 to 6 years. So this is the time to take advantage of it on the federal side.
Yeah. There is one thing you could say, having dug deep into the weeds on this over the last 4 or 5 years. It is somewhat crazy that a village the size of Sag Harbor would have its own sewage treatment plant. It's wonderful that we do, but this is essentially a regional issue. And I think it would be dealt with in a much more efficient manner if it was a regional approach to a regional solution. as opposed to, one of the big issues we have is staffing. Staffing is really, really difficult, as we know, it's everywhere. And that's going to be a huge issue for everybody, and if we have all these little plants isolated in different locations, we're not able to take advantage of any sort of a collective approach
Yeah.
to all of this. So it's just a thought.
It's not a new thought.
Okay, thanks.
So I know there's a lot of grant money out there, the state's got money, maybe one day the federal government have money, we have money. These areas, you're asking for 1.5 million just for design. And typically, I think of, design engineering is 10% of the project cost maybe, so you're looking at a $15 million project here.
Correct.
And if I use the numbers we just discussed for Area K, and I multiply it by the 217 parcels, I'm in around $16 million. So at some point, you're coming back asking for a heck of a lot more money, right? So,
Yes, we will.
Yes.
And we have, we're fortunate we have this water quality money, but, the 20%, this isn't not a great year for CPF. It's down, I don't know, maybe 50%.
Right, we've had some
So,
bumpers.
this year we happen to have a lot from the prior year, pandemic year, but, that is, likely, more than a year's worth of water quality money, even in the future. So it's just, I just
think
want the
we-
board to be cognizant, and there might be other monies
Yeah.
coming in that they're,
The state is going to have to.
There's-
The state is gonna have to.
because, I don't,
Of course.
we should know before we go in with a, was it $1.5 million engineering cost, that to make the project happen, they're gonna have to raise a lot of money. We're struggling ourselves with Riverside, trying to get the federal, we got $5 million from Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer, but, we're struggling to get the 25 million package
Yep.
together to sewer that area, very important area, that Peconic Bay, Reeves Bay, and
I mean,
it's
I think
really
what-
stymied all kinds of economic development in that area, and really critical. Sag Harbor's not suffering from economic
No,
development.
it's
woes.
nothing, yeah, it's one.
It's hopping over there, but,
But we could, that could all reverse if the water quality is diminished to the point where it's not an attractive place to
I
be.
know, I'm just sort of putting up this sort of cautionary note, because Hampton Bays wants to do sewage treatment, Flanders Riverside sewage treatment, the Village of Southampton sewage treatment. You guys want to expand your sewage treatment. It sounds like we have a lot of money, but not when you start looking at all
No,
those,
I appreciate that.
all
yeah.
those efforts. And so I just want the board to be aware that,
Well,
we
your
have
board
to
should be aware of that.
judicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are. I mean, we've been working on this for a long time, and it is, as I said earlier, it's kind of, when you start digging into it, it is shocking how much sewering costs.
I mean,
Um,
a perfect
You already have the
example.
plant.
And we
Some of
already
these
have the
places
plant.
don't have
All
the
we're
plant.
talking about is the connection.
Well, and I was gonna make that point, because like
Yeah.
Gabreski in West Hampton Beach, that plant was there. The connection costs, what was passed along to the consumers, the users of that within,
Yeah.
they create their own district, that kind of thing. You're gonna have to be creative with how your constituents are helping you go forward as well, and that takes, now you become a sewage district, and.
Well, the village, the entire village is a sewage district, and we have had conversations, as I mentioned earlier, that, we all need to have skin in the game. It's in everybody's interest. It underpins the value of all our property. It underpins everything we do here and how we like to live. And as the water goes, so goes all of our communities.
Aiden, you work with writing grants for the village.
Correct.
Does the state give deference to projects that are shovel-ready, for lack of a better word? In other words,
They don't seem to. There's a scoring hierarchy that changes from year to year.
Mhm.
There was, with the change of governor in Albany, there seemed to be a change in focus. If I don't know how to put this delicately, it seemed to move a little further up Hudson Valley, as opposed to out on the east end of Long Island. And so we noticed that this time around, and I'm hoping that we will be more successful. I know the criteria are the same this year, but we'll just keep going back. These are long-term projects. You can't just give up.
Right.
You know,
Well-
that if you lose this year, you go back next year.
Yeah.
And a lot of these
Just-
homes are very old.
Yeah, and the other thing about Sag Harbor is we're so dense that 100 feet of pipe in the street serves a lot of homes in Sag Harbor compared to less dense communities. And
Yeah,
Sir.
I know we're rushed, but just really quickly also, in your toolbox, you also have the availability to go back to that entity that you're seeking money from, particularly this on the federal side, as there's a national group of electeds that get together and have this very problem in municipalities that can't afford grant writing, and they will help you with that process to make it more even. They're looking for equity across the board, and that's part of the problem, so that's also someone to reach out to.
thank you.
Well, let me add to that. I mean,
Yeah, last comment, because we do have a lot of others
Okay.
to look at.
we'd like to work with you to finance this in some way, whatever way we can, and we've looked at every possible avenue we think, and have a grant writer who's very good, has worked on other projects that have been before you. And we're exhausting those possibilities. The important thing about the engineering is we need that work done in order to be in a position to apply for other grants. And it's not something that's funded by the typical grants. We would also be willing to look at dividing that up in terms of if it's not possible to get the full amount that we need to do that whole area, we can start with engineering for a part of that area if we have those funds available. So I just want to throw that out that we can work with you just to get this moving on.
Great.
Okay,
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, so.
Village of North Haven.
All right, so next is, Village of North Haven. This is the Village Hall sanitary system upgrade. And this is, I guess, an IA Fuji Clean system for Village Hall.
Good evening. I'm Terry Diet. I'm one of the village trustees in North Haven. And I have Rick Wisniewski with me from the Rayner Group. So thank you to the town board and CPF for considering North Haven's grant application. I'd like to start by giving you a little bit of background on the project and how it fits into our overall water quality improvement program. So the Water Quality Improvement Committee was formed in North Haven last year in 2022. So for the first time, we are focusing on water quality in North Haven. And we are literally surrounded by water in North Haven. So we have many important creeks, ponds, and estuaries as well in the interior. And we are focused on raising awareness in the community through education, engagement, on the importance of clean water initiatives and actions that everyone in the community can take towards our goals. We form strong relationships with the PEP, Dr. Chris Gobler, and the Southampton trustees. And this year, in 2023, we've launched a water quality newsletter to educate residents and raise awareness. We have offered a presentation to residents delivered by the PEP, Suffolk County Health Department, with the assistance of the town of Southampton CPF on upgrading septic systems to IA systems and the grants and rebates that are available to homeowners. And we included local engineers and installers, and it was very well attended. And this application to install an IA septic system in Village Hall will set the example for our community. And we've started to track the metric of the number of systems installed in North Haven, and we're reporting that to our community. We also offered a presentation on alternatives on lawn and garden care by Edwina Von Gaal from the Perfect Earth Project to encourage reductions in fertilization usage. We have contracted with Dr. Gobler for ongoing water quality testing for the first time in North Haven for 6 key sites. And we are engaged with Dr. Gobler and the PEP to support the pilot project for Peconic blue carbon, and we're very excited about that. As well, we've initiated a plan to restore the health of Gannett Creek, Fresh Pond, and Great Salt Pond, and we've met with the Southampton trustees to seek their advice and enlist their support. We've conducted a survey of village roadway infrastructure to identify sites to improve stormwater runoff, and we've scoped multiple projects for that as well. So this application to CPF for the grant to install an IA septic system for Village Hall is an important component of our overall water quality improvement plan for North Haven Village Hall and the surrounding wetlands. And it demonstrates to the community that our municipality is leading by example. So the proposed project involves upgrading the existing conventional sanitary system that was constructed in 1992, and it serves Village Hall and replaces it with an IA on-site wastewater treatment system in accordance with the requirements of Suffolk County Sanitary Code. And the scope of the wastewater treatment system improvements consists of removing and abandoning the existing 900-gallon septic tank and installing a new CEN-10 wastewater treatment tank and associated equipment manufactured by FujiClean USA, as well as the associated infrastructure and the site restoration. So with the assistance of my colleague, what questions can we answer for you?
My first question is, how many systems are you talking about, and what's your flow rate? Because I don't see it here.
Yeah, it's just one system, one IA system that's currently going to replace the existing septic tank. There's 3 leaching pools currently there for the septic tank. We're going to keep those, and we're going to also add 4 more.
So you're going to augment your system with a Fuji system?
Yes.
Iron bearing or not?
What's that?
With iron, the iron add-on to it?
Yes.
Okay.
So is there still a septic tank and then the Fuji system?
We're going to have a trash tank. The FujiClean team likes to put a trash tank before their IA system, in case any.
Does that catch solids? Is that-
Yeah, any solids and any baby wipes or anything that may be flushed down in the toilets of Village Hall.
How many people are working there in the day? I'm just curious as to what your flow rate is.
So in the office, we have a small staff. So there are typically 4 in the office. On some days, there are 5. Working in the office, we of course have meetings and visitors.
Right.
There's a playground out back. So there are other
So
people in and out using the
It's well matched.
facilities. Yeah.
That works out in my head at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
No? Happy you're doing it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
you.
consideration.
I've been to some busy meetings at that location, pretty crowded rooms, so it depends on the controversy.
We do have quite a few meetings, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Inferring it's all controversial? or-
well, they know, I remember the guardrails, back when the
Long time
guardrails
ago,
went
right,
in,
yeah.
ugly guardrails, that was pretty packed room, there's a couple other
It's a busy little place
controversies
some
through the
days,
years,
yes.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, thank you. We'll move on to the next one, and this is a town project. It's Riverside Phase 1 sewer system, and Teresa Mason, you're a senior planner now? What's your title?
Principal now.
Principal.
Thank you Supervisor Snyderman, members of the board. As Mr. Snyderman said, I am the principal planner for the planning division. The town planning division is seeking monies to construct phase 1 of the Riverside sewage treatment plant, which is outlined here in yellow on the map if you can see it. If not, it's on the town's website. The funding will be for connecting 224 of the 682 homes and businesses in the area. And construction of the sewage treatment plant is critical for implementing the Riverside Revitalization Action Plan, which we have spent years working on and doing the zoning updates for. Without doing this, we can't do the revitalization program. And construction of the sewage treatment plant will reduce nitrogen inputs from approximately 50 milligrams per liter to less than 10 milligrams per liter, which is going to be about a 34% reduction, and that includes the increased capacity and the increased use under the Riverside Overlay District. So it would go from about, I think I lost the number. We would see a net reduction by about 4,923 pounds per year of nitrogen into the Peconic Estuary and the Peconic River. As you no doubt are aware, the Peconic River is the main tributary to the Peconic Estuary, which is an estuary of national significance. It is also a 303D listed nitrogen impaired water body, and about a decade ago, more than a decade ago, the Peconic Estuary Partnership had developed a nitrogen TMDL for the Peconic River and its other tributaries, and this will help bring the nitrogen down in the area to try and bring that closer to those goals in the nitrogen TMDL. We are seeking about $7 million in funding for the project. We've already secured $5 million, and we are seeking an additional $13 million from other sources. It is a large amount of money that we're requesting, both from the town and from other sources, but it is very critical in order to implement the revitalization plan.
And just, the board, I'm sure already knows this, but CPF funds can't be used to promote density. So the entire plant, which may be $25 million, we can't use CPF funds to build it because part of it is for future density. This
is only phase one.
This only relates to connecting existing homes to the plant.
That's correct. And also,
It's that
again,
proportion of the funding that relates to existing density.
right. And even the existing density, doing the sewage treatment plant significantly reduces the nitrogen input by, 3 or 4 orders of magnitude. That's a significant amount for the existing density. And I actually am doing the research for it, but based on my research, out of the 682 homes and businesses in the Riverside redevelopment area, only 11 have taken advantage of the IA rebate program. And part of that is because it is an economically depressed area, and those rebate programs, you have to pay out of pocket first and then you get reimbursed. So these are homes that they can't afford to upgrade, even though there are rebates available. So this is going to help for revitalization of the area and improvement of the water quality in the Peconic Estuary and the main tributary of the Peconic Estuary.
So even though this could not be used to increase density, there are provisions in this system. I would imagine that there are provisions in this system that could handle the Riverside Revitalization Program if there's developments or initiatives in the area that the district and the capacity of the district could be built out. So it could
Right.
handle that.
The proposed plant is a sequence batch reactor, which is an expandable program. So phase 1 is just for the existing. Phase 2 is for the increased density under the RRAP. But for this point, again, it's just phase 1 to connect 224 homes and businesses in the area that
So
are
it's
already
sort of
existing.
like the plant is being designed for a certain gallonage, and the existing flow is a certain gallonage, and it's whatever percentage of that plant capacity.
Correct.
If
That's available.
That's pre-existing. That's where the number, the $7 million comes from.
That's correct.
7.5 million, yeah.
Any additional questions for me?
No, we've discussed this a lot, so I think the board-
The board's
Yes.
pretty familiar with this one.
Yes. All right. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you, Teresa.
Afternoon, evening, huh? Okay, so we're gonna move on to West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center. Is there somebody here from West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center? Okay, I could just tell you that they're looking to connect the theater to the new sewer capacity in the village of West Hampton. It's pretty straightforward. The theater is heavily used, lots of people using the facility there. So it makes absolute sense to have it, I mean, that's why they built a sewer district in the village of West Hampton, is so people could connect and to have a not-for-profit performing arts center connect is a really important thing, and they're just asking for a small amount to, I guess, do just the connection, right?
Yes.
Because all the infrastructure's already there, so it's just 18,700. Anybody have any questions on that?
No, just that it's the sewage district up at Gabreski Airport that, and we've discussed this at the last round on connecting. So the capacity is there, so it's a pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
It was always
thing.
envisioned that the downtown would
Right.
connect to the sewer main. The sewer
Yep.
main, yes, eventually gets pumped all the way up to Gabreski, but the sewer main is right, literally in front of the theater. So it's just the connection from the sewer main to the theater system. All right, let's move on to the next one. The Village of Southampton Sewer System Design Engineering. Is there somebody from, who's that?
Oh, she,
Okay. I guess, but we didn't have anybody from West Hampton on Zoom, huh? Doesn't matter, we're past it, they're off the hook. All right,
they're connected.
all right, so Charlene Cagle-Betts, you want to bring her in? Hey, Paul, don't look like Charlene.
No, I don't think so.
Charlie's having a bad night.
Can't hear you.
We see your smiling face, but
Can't hear you.
we can't hear a word you're saying, so we're gonna see if it's on our end or your end. Just check to see if you're muted.
That's gonna be an
I'm
individual
not
too, isn't it?
No, now you're not
Now you can
muted.
hear you, okay.
Okay.
All right, Paul, you're, do you want
I
to
should
just,
explain, the village has its trustees meeting tonight as we speak, so I'm appearing for the village. I'm the chair of the Clean Water Committee for this village. So we are, the village of Southampton is applying for a grant of $1.739 million to fund the completion of the engineering design for the Southampton Village Sewage Collection and Treatment System. The proposed sewage service area will include 254 parcels with an associated flow of 198,000 gallons per day. So it's a fairly significant size system. It was estimated by Dr. Gobler that 70% of the nitrogen loading in the lake, in Lake Agawam, comes from the sewage flow from the area that we've outlined. So this is really a critical item to achieve clean water in the village, and particularly at Lake Agawam, which I think, as you all know, is a very polluted body of water. We've been before you before, so I think you know a lot about what we're planning on doing. This includes the entire business district goes east on Hampton Road to include Town Hall, and the elementary school includes the commercial area of Hill Street, and goes north on North Sea Road and David White's Lane to the village border and to County Road 39. So this is to fund the engineering work. Some of that has happened to date in establishing the district. So the village trustees approved the boundaries of the district back in the spring. And as you know, we are moving forward and working with that, and we're in the midst of looking at 3 potential sites for the sewage treatment plant, which will be a membrane closed plant. So I was listening before when they were talking in Sag Harbor, this would be a closed plant, and so no smell would be associated with the plant.
are the 3 locations for the plant within the village boundaries, or are they outside of it?
One is within the village, the others, one is literally on the line, and the other is a block away. So they're either in the village or extremely close to the village.
Oh, are we going to be consulted on
Yes, yes,
these locations?
yes, absolutely. And I think some of them have been discussed before. I think actually all of them have been discussed before. So,
Because there was one site that turned out to be fairly controversial, as you know. That is not one of the current sites, right?
no. These are all sites with, to quote someone, willing sellers.
Well, that was.
Okay, but are they set back from residential properties?
Neighbors.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Southampton? For Southampton Village,
No.
for this project? Okay, that's the only, that's my only sort of caveat here, is that if you're considering sites outside the village, I think we want to know early on that those sites are being considered, so that
Correct.
we can respond to constituents. As a village
Yeah, and I
resident,
think
I'm
that's
also
just
interested.
to make it seem easier perhaps, the two sites that we're looking at that are not within the village boundaries do not have any residential property near them.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, I'm just misunderstanding something. You're talking of 198,000 gallons per day flow.
Per day.
Flow rate with 256 parcels.
Correct.
Those numbers don't match. Are you looking to increase the use of this system?
Yes, thank you, that's a very good question. So, current flow for those parcels is estimated to be 120,000 gallons per day. The 198,000 gallons per day is at full build-out under current zoning.
Okay. So we'd have to look at that as far as not using CPF money to increase density.
Right.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's an interesting question. So the money you're requesting is the full cost of the engineering? Which-
Right, the engineering is the same, really, and I think as was mentioned before, the way this plant would be built, it would be built to accommodate immediately the 120,000 gallons per day, but could easily be modified to reach full flow.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next. And so, Hampton Bays Sewer District, sewer planning and feasibility study. This is the $250,000 request. Janice isn't here, but the board, I think, is pretty familiar with this request to undertake a planning and feasibility study, produce an engineering report for sewer infrastructure for Hampton Bays. And the project consists of two parts. The sewer planning study will cost $85,000 and is funded by the Department of Land Management. And the sewer feasibility study engineering report is the $250,000. Will evaluate different sewer collection, conveyance, and treatment alternatives for viability and cost effectiveness. And it's an area that I believe not only needs to be sewered, knows it needs to be sewered. That the community is a water based community. There's water everywhere, and everything that happens on the land ultimately affects the various bays, Shinnecock Bay and Tiana Bay, and Peconic Bay. So I think the community understands that sewering is necessary to be able to remove the nitrogen and protect not only the drinking water, but the surface water. So, any board have any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on
Did
then.
anybody fill out cards for that?
There is one person on Hampton, oh, no, this is a different.
We have
different
several
one.
people from Hampton Bays here.
All right.
It's a good thing.
For a change? No. That's all right, I never mind. All right, so we did the next one, let's see.
Southampton Animal Shelter.
All right, so the next one is Southampton Animal Shelter Foundation. This is a wastewater treatment improvement project.
Who is it, Jackie? Tom's on?
So this is our building.
This is ours.
But the animal shelter is looking to go to IA. All right, so we're gonna try to bring our town engineer, Tom Houghton, into our Zoom.
There it is.
Hey, Tom, can you hear us? I guess not. Tom, can you hear me?
Barely. Let me. Good now.
Oh,
I can make it loud.
all right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. All right, so Tom, do you want to talk us through this project for the animal shelter?
Sure, I'll take it away. Good evening, Town Supervisor, ladies and gentlemen of the Town Board. I'm here before you tonight to present a IA system repair for the Southampton Animal Shelter. It's a town-owned building that the animal shelter leases from us and utilizes to fulfill their mission. The system has been failing for about 6 months now. It consists of 2 separate systems, one for human waste, one for animal waste. Both have been pumped regularly because they tend to overflow into the animal yards and it causes a pretty unsanitary condition. We're proposing to retrofit both systems with IA treatment for the human waste, and we're going to look at a wood chip filter for the animal waste. We're also going to propose an IA for the animal waste, but we're going to see if it is able to get through the health department. We have not been to design yet. This money would be for design, construction, and remediation of the animal yard. And it would cost about $286,000. We're looking at about 2,100 gallons per day of density. We don't plan to increase it. That includes 64 kennels within the building. That waste and that urine that gets washed out to that sanitary system. So we do try and treat that, or we do treat that on site. Beatrix is here from the animal shelter if you have any further questions on daily operations, but this is an issue that they've been dealing with for some time, and we saw an opportunity as a town building to work with the animal shelter and try and help them along in replacing this system in one that'll be more environmentally beneficial.
Is the location of the IA system the same as the current sanitary system?
Yes, we're based on the piping in the building, which is quite extensive due to the number of kennels. Each kennel is piped to the system. We're gonna replace the system in its current location, but that does mean ripping up a large quantity of artificial turf that the dogs run on in their exercise yard.
Okay. Any other questions? So this is mostly design work, right?
We anticipate about $15,000 for design. The rest of it will be for the construction of the actual system.
Oh, okay.
We've lumped it all into one project.
So
Okay.
Tom, I was there a few weeks ago and they had actually jackhammered up the kennel floor to replace the outflow pipe. And it displaced.
I was not aware of that, but we're hoping to just work on items that are outside of the building. If any interior plumbing repairs are required, we'll try and address those at the time as well.
Yeah, so that's what was my question,
That's
so
been
that that
repaired.
address everything in the
That was a
building.
waste pipeline that went
Going
out to
out.
the septic, and that was what was repaired. That
Makes
leads
sense.
to the septic system.
So what my question though was, is there any more disruption to the inside of the building for this system?
I don't anticipate so. There
Okay.
will be a time where the building's gonna need to be shut down because of switching one system over to another. I hope to construct the animal system in place of the human system so that while the human system's shut down, the humans can use a portable restroom in the parking lot. And then this way we can essentially flip-flop the 2 systems via piping and have uninterrupted flow to the animal waste. And then at a later point, we can reconstruct the human system. It does afford us some ability to juggle there.
Okay, thank you.
Two systems.
Are there complexities because of all the, the dander and the cat hair and the dog hair that, will an IA system work in that environment?
There absolutely is, and that's why I was looking to do some sort of wood chip polishing unit in place of a full IA system, because I do not believe that they're rated for that at this time. We will reach out to the top 3 manufacturers to see if they'll be able to do anything with that quantity of pet hair and dander, or if they recommend that we pursue just a wood chip system.
Well, there would be some kind of septic tank, right? Some kind of, like, was called a trash container of some sort at one of the earlier applications where, the water would go in first and you'd float out. You could potentially float out a lot of the dander and the hair.
Yes, of course, and they also make filters that go into the drop tees on the outfall side of the tanks as well. So we're going to look at a bunch of different options. It's a very complex system when we get to having the wastewater from 64 various sized dogs on a daily basis. So we're going to bring in an outside consultant, and we're going to pursue a permit from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? No. All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
B, did you want to talk on this? Are you good? You don't have to.
Do you have any questions?
No. You're good.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one, which is the 61 West Diana Owners, Inc., or Hampton Arms. I do have a card on this. This is a facility motel on Diana Bay that is looking for an IA system, and we have Sean, how do you say your last name?
O'Neill.
O'Neill. Oh, O'Neill.
Sorry, I
Like
terrible
Like
handwriting.
my secretary. Yeah. Sean O'Neill. Got it.
Hi. Yes, I'm Sean O'Neill. I'm the president of Bridgewater Environmental Services. I'm here representing the Hampton Arms, the West Diana Property Owners Association there. Thank you, board, for hearing this project again. This project's been kind of been tossing around for a few years in the WQI PP process. We had been awarded a grant from you for the engineering and design of the system. The system itself has gone through 4 or 5 different iterations of what we wanted to do with it. We have PW Grosser as the engineer on this. There were several kind of site changes and recommendations from consultation with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation about what they sort of wanted in terms of moving the system as far away from the bay as possible, because it is a very large IA system and a rather complex IA system. So it's an IA system, but it's a system that involves a collection of waste at said property, pumping it up and over to the next property, which is also owned by the same folks. But other than that, it's pretty much a straightforward waste reduction. There's no increase in density. It's a 28 unit motel / co-op, and they're in the process of changing that use at the time right now. That we intend to put on. The system is going to be 4 CEN 21 FujiClean. That's the 4 largest FujiClean systems available into a series of 2-foot effective depth leaching galleys on the neighboring property. The system that's in place now it's just a bunch of cesspools in groundwater. That's what exists now. So on a rainy day or on a high tide day, there's no treatment of the wastewater. The wastewater is going directly into Diana Bay, it's Roman era technology what's going on there now. So this would bring it up.
Did you say Roman era?
Roman
I
era.
just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
Well, it's a hole. To digress, what we even call a cesspool here is not actually a cesspool. If you're looking to do some good before bedtime reading if you want to read the New York State residential standards for wastewater treatment. There is multiple sections where do not call these cesspools. These are cesspits. They should not be used. They should not be used in any capacity. Suffolk County is actually the only place that still allows it as a leaching structure in anything but extreme situations upstate. But digress from this project. The main thing here is the FujiClean system. One thing I want to address from earlier in this meeting about lifespan. We do know FujiCleans last over 30 years. The IA systems are new to Suffolk County. They're not new to the world. So FujiCleans have been in the ground in Japan since the 1970s. There's, I believe that over 3 million of these systems are the ground now worldwide. And it's also the leading system here in Suffolk County with several thousand. All right. So the project size, 6,300 gallons per day, sanitary flow. We're expecting an 82% reduction in nitrogen pollution with this project. So it's a big win for Tiana Bay. Tiana Bay, it's a part of the South Shore Estuary Preserve, which is and it's a New York State designated critical environmental area. One other thing to point out here is test wells in the area have nitrogen levels approaching the contaminant level of 10 milligrams per liter, which would make it not just incredibly harmful for the surface waters, but unable to be able to use for drinking water. So wells in this area are on their way to being shut down or having to be mixed with other wells to produce drinkable water. So this is a good area to target. It's a pretty sound, it's existing technology. It's a tricky site that involves, some tricky engineering. But yeah, that's the project in a nutshell.
How many units are at that hotel?
28.
28 units, and the system's rated at 6,000 gallons per day, which is way more than a 28-unit motel would need. So is there something else going on here? Is there a restaurant or something? Is there a secondary use?
No, that's the sanitary flow that's approved for the area, for the property.
Do they all have kitchens?
Most of them, yes. Actually, no, all of them. All of them have kitchenettes. There is like the clubhouse room. There's a laundry facility there. There isn't a restaurant, but there is a kind of a common area with cooking facilities that they use for parties and get-togethers.
And so is the hotel expanding anyway?
No way.
You said there was a change of use coming.
Yes.
What was that?
So it's currently considered a waterfront motel, and in discussion with staff, Jackie and Emily over there, we were basically the concern was that it's operating as a co-op, but classified a waterfront motel. The Property Owners Association identified that is an issue, and they have begun the process with the town of switching over for it to be a co-op. So
That's where the 6,000 is coming in, because there's a different flow rate for a residential unit. So it's not going to be a hotel, it's going to be a residential?
A co-op, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
co-ops can be hotels too. It gets a little bit tricky, but it's going to operate not on a transient basis, but on a
in a semi-permanent basis. How it operates now, and this is sort of why, it's sort of a legal gray area with some of the operation here, is it's not a year-round facility for anyone but the maintenance person that has one of the units, and the guy who kind of runs the whole thing. Everybody leaves at some point. It's not, no one has a permanent address there, no one has a business address there, so they're following sort of the transient model. However, individual units aren't available to the public. They're not open to the public. So if a certain person owns a unit, while they may invite guests to come, there's not a central, like I get a room for.
So you can't book a night at the hotel?
Correct.
But it's called a hotel, or?
So what's classified now as a waterfront motel.
the
classified
town.
as a waterfront, but it's really a seasonal residence. Is the Fuji system, does it work well in seasonal uses?
Yes, so any of the IA systems that will work better with constant flow into them. However, they don't stop working when there isn't flow into them. So the Fuji Clean unit in and of itself will act solely as a septic system. If you turn off all the power to a Fuji Clean, it's basically a septic tank at that point. So it still will treat the bacteria. So these units get serviced twice a year. The bacteria that needs to grow in the media filters, which is processing the waste, will need to be fed occasionally if there isn't a flow. But that's part of the routine maintenance that they will have to sign up for of at least 2 times a year. Commercial properties, Fuji Clean generally comes to 3 times a year. But yeah, so it's basically what happens for, and this would be with any residence, any house where you have a seasonal resident. The first maintenance treatment in the spring, they generally feed it a carbon source to kind of jumpstart the denitrification process.
And how are you getting to the other property? Is it a directly adjoining property?
It
or-
is. It is.
So you're not going under the road or?
No, so it's just pumped from where it is currently, which is in the parking lot of the motel facility. The next spot over they use they have a little marina there. They use for boat trailer storage, that kind of stuff. So it'll be going to that area.
Right, so it's
mainly an open field at this point, but in the winter there's.
Is it owned in a different name?
No, it's all the same.
Okay.
So I'm still a little confused, because the flow rates don't add up, depending on what end usage you end up with. Right, I understand these are owner-occupied units?
Correct.
So I don't know how the county, maybe Emily, you know, or Jackie, I don't know how the county designates that, and how we can do that until we understand what the end ownership is going to be. So we have a little time to do that, but I'd like to look into that a little bit, please. Thank you.
Apartments are generally 150 gallons per day. And
Apartment, but
Yeah, but it depends on what the county
Yeah.
certifies, and I'm
Right,
not really
right.
sure I
Yeah,
know what
that's
this is. So,
relatively,
I don't want to leave them.
it's fairly straightforward, yeah, we
Yeah.
can get that.
I think it's an easily,
Yeah.
I can get the
And,
answer.
and what I'll do too is I'll reach out to, I think Blaze is the reviewer on this. I'll reach out to him, because this is the numbers coming from them. This is the current flow that it's certified
Right.
for.
You may have more than you really need as far as in their books, but that doesn't mean you use
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
and you may not need that many IA systems, depending, that's a lot of IA systems for 28 unit owner-occupied units, in my view. I don't know how
it's
they're.
a lot of flow.
Yeah, it's a lot of flow, and I'm not sure if it's justified, and I'm not sure what the county would say when they go to approve it, what your flow rates actually are. So we just would need to know that, that's all.
Sure. Yep. I will. I'll get back to it. I'll have a meeting with PW Grosser as well. They're the
Okay.
engineer on the project.
All right.
Thanks. Okay.
All right, excellent.
All right. Thank you.
All right, next up is Cornell Cooperative Extension, Tiana Bay Habitat Restoration.
done.
No,
Oh,
we're
that's
done with
it.
reduction.
Yeah, we split them into 2 separate hearings. since
Okay,
we thought
perfect,
this was
yes,
enough.
thank you.
I just wanted to say a thank you to the Water Quality Advisory Board Committee. They worked really diligently reviewing these applications, and we're getting a lot of applications, so it takes a lot of time. So I just wanted to let you all know that Stephanie Davis Chair is here with us tonight, as well as Anthony Graves, and Chris Clapp and Anthony. What? Yes.
Will.
Peckham.
Will Peckham.
I'm sorry, I was forgetting Anthony's last name. Yeah.
Excellent.
Great,
Yeah.
yeah, you guys, this is good, this works out well. We just
Appreciate the
need to keep them
comments.
shorter.
Is it, you guys
Appreciate the
good?
comments
Did
and
you-
the ranking.
Did you want to say anything, or you good?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
we
just-
have the report. We have the report.
Yep. And also a big thank you to Emily F. Stration, our senior environmental analyst.
Yay, Emily,
Yes.
thank you.
I would just
Thank you.
make a comment, maybe next year when we do this, we can do, with some of the bigger projects like Sag Harbor,
Mhm.
have them come in for a work session.
Sure.
And have the dialogue and the back and forth, so it's not part of the public hearing, and so that if the public wants to come and weigh in on it, they could watch the work session and know what they're coming to speak about. Because right now, I think
Yeah,
you don't get
we
people to
actually,
public
we
hearings.
tried that
What the
once.
law requires.
Yeah, and
have to
we
be
couldn't
careful.
do it. There was a problem with that, a legal problem, I don't quite remember, but
There may be a requirement that a public hearing is held
Is it?
on each.
No, we could still have the public hearing, but what I'm saying is prior to the public hearing,
Have
have a
an
work
additional-
session.
in
And so the
addition.
village can come in and
Yeah,
present to
when we
us
did
what
that
they,
last time,
It
it
might
ended up
speed it along.
just, it was the same discussion twice.
for bigger projects.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is that we have a special town board meeting.
Just
that-
for this.
Just for this,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's-
And we don't combine it with anything else, and so that people don't have to wait for an extended period of time for other items that they might be interested in.
We've tried different scenarios. The work session scenario we did try, and it ended up being basically a repeat.
I just like, when you look through it, like South Village of Southampton has a bunch of projects, so I mean, if they would come in and say, hey, these are all the things we're gonna ask you for,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. I
It
mean,
might make more sense.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jackie, is there,
Just because poor people sit here have to sit here.
Well, you guys won't be here, so anyway.
All right, so
the rank and score, would you send that rubric over to us?
The rank and score.
Yeah, each one has a rank and score.
Oh, the sheets?
Yeah. So you-
All right, so,
I'm sure you
and
have
and
it.
when are we doing the other
That
ones?
would be-
Is there-
Those
We're
would be
noticing
September
it tonight.
12th. September 12th. We're adopting the resolution tonight. I think it's resolution 1014, if my memory serves me, so.
To notice the
So,
public hearing.
To notice
so
the
it's a
public-
separate notice of
Yes.
public hearing, so we're able to
should have
close
coffee
this?
now.
We are able to close this, yes.
All right, I'll make a motion. Whoa, did we forget anybody online? Let me just double check. Is there anyone else who wanted to be heard on these water quality projects online? Click the raise hand icon. And I got everybody here in our studio audience. No hands. Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, excellent.
Thank
All
you.
right, so that's it for public hearings. We're gonna move on to public portion. I have no cards from anyone here. Is there anyone who wanted to be heard in the public portion? You can talk about any item on your mind. Not seeing any hands. That's good. So we'll go online. Is there anyone listening online remotely who wishes to be heard in public portion? I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, I'll make a motion to close public portion.
Anthony Arias was the second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, the public portion is closed. Okay, we're gonna move on to the resolutions.
Do you wanna take the one that everybody's here for out of order?
We can take some out of order if you wish. It's a pretty short agenda, but which one is everybody here for?
That's the last, the
AG.
last one.
Which one?
You mean page 18, or?
What is it, a moratorium?
Yes.
Oh, the moratorium. And I know you guys are here on other ones too, so.
They're 1 and 2.
Yeah,
All right, yeah, we could take it out of order. What page is it on?
25.
25.
Resolution 1006.
1006.
Yeah, page 25.
Do you wanna do resolutions 1 and 2 first, since there are people here for this? And then we can skip to 25?
Do them first?
Yeah.
Come on.
Just
The paper.
going in order is
The other
great
guys.
as well.
All right, so I'll make a motion to take resolution 1006 of 2023, found on page 25 of your agenda, to take that out of order.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I will make a motion to approve Resolution 1006 of 2023. It's a resolution of adoption creating new Chapter 314 entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems as per Section 330-162.21 of the Southampton Town Code.
Second.
All right, seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. So, Board, we've discussed this at length. We certainly understand that the community in and around the one application that has been received is very concerned about their health and safety from explosion, or fire, or toxic gases, or water quality issues, noise issues. And they are looking for the town to evaluate its zoning and determine whether these types of facilities belong in areas like that. We passed a code understanding that global warming is serious and we need to move toward renewable energy. I think most people understand that, wind and solar, and you're gonna have to store that power somewhere. But where is the big question, and at what capacity, what scale? And when we passed the code, we believed it was a relatively benign type of use. We've learned a lot from other examples, other projects where there have been some incidences, and there are different technologies, obviously. And I think the right thing to do, and one of the most compelling things to me was the choke point. When even East Hampton, when they had the fire there, they came close to evacuating a 1 mile radius. They didn't have to, but you do have Sunrise Highway, Montauk Highway, and the railroad tracks all coming together in a very short, maybe half-mile area. And if there were something catastrophic where you had to shut down all 3 arteries, that's something that really has to be evaluated. And so I think to take a 6-month pause and to figure out where these belong and under what conditions is prudent. And I just caution the board, we need to get true unbiased expertise, and we need to work in an expeditious fashion, not to drag our heels, but to move quickly, to examine our code. And I can't forecast what those changes will be. We have to base those changes on the data. Ultimately, I won't be sitting in this chair when the final zoning changes are made, if any, but it'll be based on what is learned. And this has been a learning curve, I think, for all of us. It's nobody wanted to make anyone feel unsafe. I can tell you right now, we're all public servants who care deeply about this community. We love our community. It's why we do what we do. And I certainly didn't want anybody to lose sleep or not be able to sleep at night, or think about having to sell their properties, or live in fear. So, it was compelling, the testimony we heard, and I think the right thing to do based on that testimony is to drill down on the facts and make an informed decision. So I'm going to be supporting, I'm sponsoring with the whole board this moratorium, and I'm going to be supporting it. So I'll turn it over to my colleagues if they want to say something as well.
I just wanted to say that between asking for the work session to explore moratorium in April and where we are today, there were 3 incidences in the state of New York. And, this has been billed or labeled as a Hampton Bays project, and it's, the code is not specific to Hampton Bays. It covers the entire township outside of villages. So even though it was the Hampton Bays residents that stepped up and did the research and came before this board and made some very good points, and really, you made the argument for the moratorium. You did that not just for Hampton Bays, but you did that for the township as a whole, so I want to thank you for that. And, not only do we have to figure out what's going on and what's the best for the town, be it, the scale and size of these units, also, the governor just put together a task force on this, so obviously we want to wait until we have those findings as well. So, it's going to be a while, but we're going to have to figure it out, and we're going to have to get it right. And, I'm sure you will all be here and be a part of that process. So, I thank you again for getting involved and for the time and the research that you put into everything that you brought before this board. So thank you.
And it's time to, you know, we're gonna absolutely take it seriously. I mean, it's time to reprocess the information we got before, whether it be right or wrong, what we were told before, and to really kind of go through everything and figure out what the right zoning would be, and if there's changes to be made, we'll certainly do that.
I do believe that each level of government needs to do their part, and I believe that each country has to do their part to address something that's affecting us as a population, as a species, really. And this is, we put in this zoning. I voted for this particular zoning because I do know that climate change is real. I also heard from the Hampton Bays community and the community of Southampton Town. We do need to solve this as human beings. So that's really where we were, where I was when I voted for that. And we're going to take a good, hard look at this. And I just, want to remind people, what is happening in the Northeast. The only thing that the climatologists got wrong with global warming in our waters is actually the speed. It's actually happening faster. Now, I understand this is a very localized event. I'm supporting this. I'm voting yes on this. And so just wanted to tell the community where I was at with that vote and what I'm doing tonight.
Hang on one second. John, did you want to say anything?
No, I think you guys have all covered it pretty well, but I do want to reemphasize that we are producing renewable energy for a reason, and we're all aware of that. What I don't think we're aware of is the speed at which this is happening to us right as we are talking, right in front of us, at a rate much higher than was anticipated. It's important that these technologies get into us being able to use less fossil fuels, reduce our carbon emissions, because we are experiencing sea level rise at an unprecedented rate. And we don't really notice it, but if you look, you'll see what's happening. We're experiencing saltwater intrusion. We're a coastal community, and we are sort of the barometer of what's going to be happening all across the planet. We've already lost cultures in the Pacific, and nobody's really sort of noticed that, but it is a serious, serious issue. It doesn't take away from the serious, serious issue of the threat that may be posed by some of these technologies to people who have a genuine fear and a founded fear of what could potentially happen. So I welcome the governor's task force. I think that's a good move. But at the end of the day, we have to get off of fossil fuels and get rid of the carbon that we're producing. Otherwise, we won't have a beautiful, pristine island, a Long Island, to live on for much longer. And that's a clear motivator for future elected officials and the future that you guys all represent. So I hope we can work together to solve a big problem. So I support the moratorium because I don't like to see people get scared. And hopefully out of this task force, we'll come up with a better system, better laws, a better way to do this here locally. And I would expect that to happen. It's a good group of people, and I think we're all looking for the same thing. So I will support the moratorium.
Sir, I don't, we're done with the public portion. Do you have a quick question, or?
I just want to thank you
Okay.
for your effort and for changing your direction. What is going to happen now is going to be more important than anything that has happened.
You're going to need to go to the podium,
Just because
sir.
we're recording and we can't hear you, but I will just sort of restate that this gentleman is thanking the board for changing direction, having, I guess, the courage to, to stop and analyze and make an informed decision.
One other point I wish to make, that the problem that faces you going forward is worse and harder than the one you faced to date. You faced us. You have recognized that we have something to say. We have said it well. Now you're going to face money and you're going to face power.
Sir, your comments are not on the record. It'd be great
and
if you
you're
would go to
making me
the
have to
podium.
repeat everything that you say.
Yeah,
but-
it's-
But you're saying that the problem that's ahead is bigger than the problem that's behind.
Go to the podium, please.
Oh, just come up to the podium, but please keep it brief, because we do have a lot of, other items on the agenda here. I don't normally do this, public portion is over.
So you only get 30 seconds.
Don't interrupt me then.
But since I know you come up to thank us, I'll get I'll
I
give you
do
the
thank
microphone.
you, I thank you very much. I just want to say that the problem that you will face is much more difficult than the problem you've overcome. The problem you face in the future is power, the state, the desire to do right by all of us, and the power also you're going to face money, the people who have invested time and money in doing what they've done so far. The money people influence the power people. So what you're going to have to do is figure out a way to make this work for everyone, especially for the people in Hampton Bays and all residential communities. And the newspaper that we have squarely came down right on the middle, made no choice, but said, we agree we should stop. We've all agreed we should stop. The question is where we go from here. How do we accomplish getting rid of fossil fuel? How do we accomplish keeping people safe? And how do we do it and revitalize the grid, which is very old? You face a daunting problem. You just tried to figure out how to spend money for sewage. Well, now you're going to have to figure out how to fix the grid. You're going to have to figure out how to distribute electricity. You're going to have to figure out how not to put people at risk and do it expeditiously.
All right, I'm going to have to, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have his name on the record, or?
Just, sir, what's your name?
Steve Crispinelli.
Steve Crispinelli, just for our record. All right, thank you, Steve.
Spell that, but.
With a K, correct?
All right, so, again, the zoning was put in place with good intention. There's no doubt that we all care about this planet and we want to address climate change. At the same time, we've learned largely through the education that our citizens have provided that there are some serious risks involved with this particular technology that have to be answered. And that's why we need to get those answers and, you know, and not allow any of these storage facilities to be constructed while we're finding the answers. And so that's very important. So with that, we had a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it sounded unanimous. So the moratorium now, we've already heard from Suffolk County Planning Commission
Yes.
and the Planning Board. So it just has to get filed with the Secretary of State, right?
That's good.
You know, there may be challenges. I know some people were concerned about certain aspects of it. It's written in standard form with anticipation that there may be challenges. We want to make sure that it holds up. So I want to thank our town attorney, Jim Burke, for working with us, who's got a lot of experience in this area, in putting this moratorium together. All right? All right, so now we're going back to the top. If you're exiting, just please do so quietly. And we will go to Resolution 949 of 2023. This is to accept a grant of conservation easements in connection with the Lewis Road PRD.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. I know people had questions on it. Hopefully, everybody had their questions answered at this point.
Everything's been answered well.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved unanimously.
Town Board Resolution 950 of 2023, accept deeds of dedication in connection with the Lewis Road PRD. Co-sponsor Supervisor Schneiderman.
I'll second. Is everybody okay with this one as well? You've had ample time to review it. All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the second?
I was.
Thank you.
Approved unanimously.
Town Board Resolution 966 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier. Authorize the supervisor to sign contract with EV Connect for charging station management system at Ponquag Beach.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 992 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorize execution of groundwater monitoring agreement for the Lewis Road PRD Golf course in East Quogue.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. Again, I just want to make sure everybody is comfortable. Questions?
Yep.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It was a very good
Approved.
presentation.
So that's it for you guys, right? You got your.
Unless you just want to hang out.
Sure you don't want to stay?
You got your money's worth in terms of entertainment?
We'll be back in September for the other grants. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't either.
Nobody does.
All right, 993 of 2023, this authorized purchase and installation of roofing products and services from Roof Services of New York from Tecta America Company LLC using Omnia Partners contract.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 994 of 23, authorized supervisor to execute a contract with First Coastal Corporation for professional consulting services as it relates to the North Sea Beach Colony Erosion Control District Nourishment Project pursuant to Town Law 202B.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 995 of 2023, authorized supervisor to sign a contract with State University of New York at Stony Brook School of Health Professions.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 996 of 2023 to authorize the supervisor to execute a computer use agreement with M1 Security Solutions in furtherance of professional services consulting contract.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 997 of 23, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier, authorized the supervisor to execute a contract with Louis K. McLean Associates, PC, for professional services related to improvements at Red Creek Park, Hampton Bays.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 998 of 2023, declare item surplus and authorize disposal of vehicles.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 999 of 23, recall and amend resolution 2023-833, authorize supervisor to sign agreement to lease the premises known as 271 Flanders Road, Riverside, New York, to Long Island Head Start Child Development Services, Inc., and to the Children's Museum of the East End, Seamead.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 1000 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is a 2023 notice, second notice to bidders for Tiana Life Saving Station restoration.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Resolution 2023-1001 amends the 2023 budget for various departments.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 1002 of 2023 is to amend the 2023 Department of Land Management Building and Zoning Division commercial fee schedule.
Second.
Co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara and Councilman Bouvier.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 1003 of 23. It's authorizing the town to reimburse NYMER, New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, the deductible for bodily injury and property damage claims.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 1004 of 2023, resolution of adoption amending Chapter 164-6.4 hazardous accumulations to enhance enforcement ability. This one, we had an addition, which was from the exemption. Letter E, Section 4, Councilwoman McNamara asked that exemption for agricultural land, which is actually in residential districts, be added to it. Just wanted to call that to the board's attention.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for bringing this forward. Do we have a second on
No.
the, I'll second.
I just have a statement, because there's kind of a lot to unpack here, so I just wrote it down because I don't want to get anything wrong. This law as written does not enhance enforcement ability. hazardous accumulations are already addressed in the code and not specific to residential or commercial properties. The fire marshal utilizes state codes to define what constitutes a hazardous accumulation. We then have Chapter 128 in our code, which deals specifically with unsafe buildings. Section 8 grants the chief fire marshal emergency measures to vacate premises, close roads, and/or safeguard neighboring properties and occupants. If, after being notified, the property owner with the dangerous, unsafe, or unsanitary condition neglects, refuses, or fails to correct the situation, they can then be charged with a criminal offense. This board can enhance enforcement ability by simply making it clear to the chief fire marshal that a situation like the one that occurred in a residential neighborhood earlier this year should be dealt with by utilizing every enforcement action available with our full support. This new law is far too subjective. A dangerous accumulation is defined as beyond an amount ordinarily used for the cleaning or maintenance of a property. At the public hearing, I asked if I purchased 4 buckets of chlorine at Costco because they are on sale, would that constitute a dangerous accumulation? You all said no because you were thinking of that situation in North Sea. I asked that same question to several other people not familiar with that situation, and most of them thought it would be. If we are going to charge someone with a criminal offense, it should be very clear to them that they broke the law. If 4 buckets of chlorine is okay, what about 6? When does it become a dangerous accumulation? This is really important because with the way this law is written, each container constitutes an additional violation. While I don't think our current staff would abuse this charge, 10 or 20 years from now, someone might. It could be argued that 2 gallons of bleach in the laundry room or 3 cans of Raid under the kitchen sink are beyond an amount ordinarily used. The chief fire marshal is granted these powers because they are a New York State peace officer charged with the enforcement of national, state, and local fire protection laws, which are clearly written and defined. The chief fire marshal making the determination as to whether an amount is unsafe as set forth in Section 128-8 takes the discretion off of officers not specifically trained in this area. I asked for the ag exemption because most farms are zoned residential, and while I appreciate the addition of that exemption, I still can't support this resolution. It takes a properly defined offense, makes it completely subjective, and removes any ability for an individual to rectify the situation before being charged with a criminal offense. And for that
I'll
reason.
let the sponsor respond. Time, Joe?
Thank you. We had a public hearing on this on the 24th. We discussed this more than 10 days ago. I would have liked to have worked on that before this here tonight. I would have to say that this does make hazardous accumulations into an unclassified misdemeanor. And in a situation where a house was fully engulfed and there were people who were abusing the storage provisions in our code or in life really, and our firefighters came to that situation and the house was on fire, it should be a crime. And so I put it as an unclassified misdemeanor here. But I would be glad to work on this further with you if you would want. Obviously, you folks have done a considerable amount of research on this, and this is a companion legislation. So the next legislation, do you feel the same way about
No,
that?
I actually support increasing the penalties because I feel that if you leave the hazardous accumulation to the chief fire marshal, who is properly trained to dictate what a hazardous accumulation is, I feel that yes, it should rise to the level of a criminal offense.
Now, in the next resolution, it is specific to this portion of the code.
But this portion of the code is still there, we're just amending it. I agreed with it as written.
Now, this would be, it's all as determined by authorized staff from the Department of Public Safety and Emergency Management. So you're arguing that it should only be the chief fire marshal?
The way that the code is currently, I agree that with the code, the way it's currently written for hazardous accumulations stands on its own because it's spelled out and the chief fire marshal decides what a hazardous accumulation is. And I do believe that if he or she does say that there is a hazardous accumulation, it should rise to the level of a criminal offense.
That's exactly
what
what
it
this
does.
code does.
The second
So-
code does, but the first code
Well, the
allows,
first-
it
the-
doesn't.
It defines it.
Yes, but it doesn't define it the way that New York State fire protection codes do, the way the fire marshal already. This allows building inspectors to write a criminal misdemeanor ticket for hazardous accumulation based on something that they deem to be beyond an amount ordinarily used for the cleaning or maintenance of property. Now, I see this as a code enforcement officer coming in for a rental permit application. You mouth off, they don't like you. Why do you have 3 cans of radon? It just opens the
I
door.
have more faith in our town officials.
I do currently, yes, but we don't write codes for today. We write them and they need to stand for
I know
10,
that.
20,
Thank you,
50
Councilman.
years.
So how this read? It's determined and authorized by staff at the department. Currently, it's a violation. And in the situation that I described earlier, that should not be a violation. You know, we got lucky in North Sea, you know, we had some buckets pop, but if that house was fully engulfed from some other reason, and there were 64 melting plastic buckets with thousands of chlorine tablets, we're gonna write a violation on that?
No,
I mean,
because
it
this
should
next,
absolutely be at least a misdemeanor. So that's why I put it forward. I think, you know.
the next,
And I know they're code enforcement officers unto themselves.
yeah, and they can write on this code.
I don't really see a problem with the way it's written.
You can leave it as, I cannot
I
support it the
mean,
way it's
if
written.
you guys don't want to pass it tonight and work on it,
Well,
but
I'd like to-
it does, there's some subjectivity, but it's.
There's a lot of subjectivity.
But you need it. If you're the ordinance inspector and you're there at the property and you see a dangerous condition,
You call in the chief fire marshal.
You don't want to have to go and say, oh, it's got to be 5 times the amount that's normally used.
You call in the chief fire marshal, who based on state codes, which specify what is a dangerous material and how much quantity of it
State code doesn't
is
cover everything. I think there's some discretion that we have to trust some of these individuals
the
to
chief
say,
fire marshal who is trained to use that discretion. I don't think
Well,
building
and
inspectors
another
have that
aspect-
level of extemporize.
I mean, I think it's safer to empower these individuals.
Listen, I am just stating my
Another
case as to
aspect
why
to
I
this-
can't support it.
Okay, fair enough.
So, but-
Another aspect to this is that this would go before a judge.
Yeah, and you can hire an attorney to
Right.
defend you on a criminal offense for having potentially 2 bottles of bleach in your basement.
No, that's a
Well-
problem.
You're saying no, I'm saying I'm coming in, and I don't think it's reasonable to have 2 gallons of bleach to do your laundry. You only need 1, because that's all I have.
So you're saying that
There
town
is this
officials are going to
opens the
abuse
door
this
to
law.
add on charges.
There's a lot of things in the code that have
Listen.
a certain amount of discretionary.
Yes, but it's left to an
discretion.
individual that is specifically trained to define
But
that.
they're specifically trained to protect public safety.
Yes.
To go out there and make a determination whether something is
And the law
hazardous
is currently
and
written
dangerous.
to allow them
And
to
you
make
don't
that
wanna take away
decision.
their discretion.
And the law is already on the books that allows them to shut a property down, shut down roads, and make sure things are
I
safe.
think the
We already have the
strength is-
code.
strength is their hand.
I'll make my opinion known. First of all, I have more faith, well, faith isn't the word, but I have a lot of respect for our staff and put into these situations. I
too.
think they would do the right thing. But also, I just live by these words, better safe than sorry. And if there's something wrong with this legislation, it will reveal itself, or you can continue to work on it and make some changes to it, which is also an option. But right now, I just don't want to see another repeat of what it could have been a real disaster.
This would not have changed that.
Well, I believe it would, and that's my opinion.
potentially-
I just believe that it's better to take a safe side than a questionable side. And at least in my view, this would prevent what potentially could have happened. I mean, we're all concerned about these things, and that's how I feel.
It could have been a disincentive.
Could it be better?
that
Yes,
would have
I think
prevented
any
it.
law could be better.
It could, having the stricter penalty could have been a disincentive that could have prevented a situation like we saw.
I just want to know if I'm breaking the law. I want it very clear that I'm breaking the law.
But
And as I said, with the example that I used the public hearing, and I said 4 buckets of chlorine.
You know, it's
and
like-
you all said that
Cindy,
would be
it's like,
fine. And
you
then
know-
I asked other people with the definition written here, and they said, no, it's too much.
Jim, let me ask you, because there's so many things in the code, like disorderly conduct. Somebody has to decide if it's disorderly conduct. What it is to one person isn't to another. Our law enforcement personnel are, chosen because they show, that ability to discern one situation from another and use it, when they need to. But that's very common in the code, where there's some subjectivity, and the officer is empowered to assert their judgment. Correct? I mean,
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, you would hope that, our trained public safety officials will, use their discretion on case by case. I don't know how, if the
public
sponsor wants to talk about more about this,
nuisance.
but we can.
And there's all these issues of, where somebody has to make a determination. Is it a public
I mean, I would feel
nuisance?
better if it was just left in the hands of the chief fire marshal.
Anyway, I think it's well-written personally. I think it strengthens the code and it potentially can prevent a situation like we saw. At least I hope so. I think that's the whole motivation behind it, is to save lives in the future.
That's the idea.
But, Tommy John, you're the sponsor
I'd
here.
I'd like to put it to a vote, and we certainly can continue to work on these laws. They're not set in stone.
Right,
we
it could be,
we can
it
add
could be as if we face them in court, and like Councilman Schiavone mentions, that the judge at some future date may find that it is too vague, but, that'll be up to the courts to decide that. And
Up to some poor person that has to get an attorney.
I feel better with a law like this on the books.
In a commercial establishment, when the fire department pulls up, they see a placarded like this.
Mhm.
And this indicates what is inside the building. In residential areas, placards are not required because you're not supposed to be having materials that would trigger placarded materials. So in a situation where there is a lot of hazardous material, it could be detrimental to our first responders going in, and they would have no idea what was in that building.
Under the
until
code, it
it's
has to be
too late.
excessive, an
So-
excessive quantity.
And an amount not ordinarily used.
Right. If it's
very
ordinary,
vague.
then that's fine. If
Well, I
it's-
feel comfortable putting that in the discretion of our
It's fine.
code enforcement and fire marshal.
Our current staff, yes, I do.
So Tommy John, did you have this discussion with Ryan?
I did this with the town attorney's office and the prosecutor.
Because I feel uncomfortable that you guys are so far apart here. Can we table it and have a discussion with Ryan, with the three of you, to really figure out that the language is correct and bring it up again?
I didn't want to delay it. I really wish that I had known about this before, it's been a month since the public hearing, and we could have worked on this, and we're here now. I wouldn't
I
want to.
apologize. I mean, I really wanted to get to a point where I could support this because I agree with the intent. I truly do. I just feel like there's a few things that just don't sit right well with me.
I mean, maybe if there's just the word significant, an excessive quantity significantly beyond the amount ordinarily used, maybe one word included in this would do the trick.
Or I'd like to talk to Ryan about potentially still leaving it in the hands of the chief fire marshal and not the building inspectors and the code enforcement. And, they can call him in or her in if they have a doubt.
So, Tommy John, it's really up to you. I'm a little bit torn. I support this. I'm prepared to vote for it tonight. We have, Councilman Martell wanting to hear from Ryan Murphy. If you want, as a professional courtesy, to postpone it for one meeting, we can pass it at the next meeting. Maybe there'll be a minor, we can insert a word or two that we can get it unanimous. If not, I would support it as is. So I'm going to leave it up to you as to how you want to proceed.
Okay. Wish I knew before tonight. So, I certainly wouldn't want something like this to be a split vote of the Southampton Town Board. And, I'll make a motion to table it.
So you're withdrawing the motion to approve, all right, and I'll
I'll second that
All
one.
right, we'll second it.
And thank you, Tommy John. I wasn't
you.
trying to derail anything. I mean, I
No,
was
sorry.
supporting the language, but I don't believe the divide between the boards should be that great.
I mean, it's me as well. I've talked to several people. I even called Donna Krenberg, who came to the public hearing to speak on this, and fully supported it, because I felt like I needed to, I told her why I couldn't support it.
In
And
the
I talked to
future,
her
you
today.
could call me as well.
Sure.
We'll make sure we have
Yeah.
we'll get Ryan and Sean and everybody who wants to, we'll sit in the room and get this ironed out. If there's any other,
So,
Motion to table to.
so there's a motion and a second to table,
Let's
on
say to,
104, I'll call the vote on, to the next meeting.
The 12th is the next.
September
Next
12th,
meeting,
yeah.
whatever
okay,
date that
to
is.
September 12th.
September 12th. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do think this law is well-intentioned, and
I do too.
And I think, there's some minor tweaks to it that will make everybody feel comfortable. But I think it's important that we move forward with this type of legislation. All right, Tommy John, do you want to table the next one?
Yeah, Town Board Resolution 1005 of 2023, resolution of adoption to amend Chapter 164, -6.5, penalties to increase penalty for 164-6.4, hazardous accumulations. I'd like to table that to September 12th as well.
Okay.
Second that one also.
Seconded by Councilman Martello, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you for that, Tommy John.
Okay, so that was tabled, we're at one, we already did this
We already
one?
did that.
Yeah, that was approved, I forgot to mark it.
Okay.
Um,
We are on 1007,
Yep.
right? Page
Town
58.
Board resolution,
I think-
yeah.
I think it's Tommy John.
1007.
Resolution 1007 of 2023, authorizing partial waiver of fire marshal fees for the 2023 Hampton Classic.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 1008 of 2023 is authorized, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone and Supervisor Schneiderman, authorized partial waiver of police fees for the 2023 Hampton Classic Horse Show.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. This is, there is certainly a financial impact here, 43,000 roughly dollars. This event, though, is so important to the local economy, and the community, and.
It's a staple of our community.
And yes, we have increased the
And that's
police
staple, that's
presence
stable.
for many reasons, and that's why the costs have gone up. But, it's important that we have adequate security there. So I think it's a small price to pay for the amount of money that is raised for the hospital and for, other local charities, and what the contribution to the local economy is from this event. So
Yeah, they still are paying quite a large fee.
they are paying
They are,
quite a large
yeah.
fee.
It's proportionate to the size of this event. There's no doubt about that.
Yep. So, we're getting $51,500 toward the police. Okay, so there was a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 1009 of 23, elect to consider formal zoning change from CR 200 to multifamily MF 44 to facilitate development of 34 units of affordable rental housing at 1100 Majors Path, North Sea.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. So this will just allow the application to be made for zone change. We're not obligated to change the zone in any way. But we have this two-step process. We had a work session. And I know Councilwoman McNamara, you met with the local CAC up there, and they did not object to the hearing, so we'll move forward with the hearing on this one. I'm gonna reserve judgment as to my final disposition on this, but at least.
And I wouldn't say they didn't object, as a whole, they didn't object. But there were a few people that had more questions, but they understand that the process, in order for it to move forward and for them to get to see a more formal plan and get answers to some of their questions, it would need to be an elect to consider.
Right, and I think we all understand the need for places for our school teachers and nurses and police officers and public servants to live, so, I think it's worthy of at least its day in town hall. So, all right, so we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion on it? It's co-sponsored by all of you. So I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 1010 of 2023, waive a portion of the showmobile fees for the San Gennaro Feast of the Hamptons.
I'll second.
Co-sponsored with Supervisor.
And before we call the vote, though, Councilman Martelli, you're going to recuse yourself on the vote?
thank you.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye. I'm sorry, are you recusing yourself?
Approved. Rick, Councilman Martell is recusing himself
Abstaining.
as the organizer of the event.
Okay.
Recusing or abstaining?
Abstaining. I'm not,
Abstaining.
I'm not
Yeah.
technically on the board anymore. I still
Okay,
deal
so,
with
all
this.
right, so I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's a abstention, not a recusal. You're going to pass your recuse.
you Italian?
Because you were on the board.
So a quick explanation on that, if I can. We get the showmobile a couple days ahead of time.
3
and it
minutes.
sits there doing nothing. So this is just getting rid of those days that we're paying for it just to sit there, so. Because we need it
That
to
makes
set up,
sense.
yeah.
Okay.
We appreciate it, though, thank you.
All right, so that was approved, right? Cindy, I called the vote, right?
You did, yes.
Okay, so 1011 of 23 appoints Alexander Sikorsky to Animal Control Officer 1 position in public safety.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations. 1012 of 23 appoints Dana Padone to Animal Control Officer 1 position in public safety.
Second, and I want to commend Ryan Murphy for filling these positions, doing the interviews, and, I mean, literally, I think it was the last agenda where we accepted the resignation of the two. and
He
he
filled
already
them
has
pretty quickly.
He
yeah.
did.
Yeah, so we
I'm
had a
just
second by
waiting to
Council,
hear from other departments.
we had a second by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved, and congratulations to Dana. 1013, 23 appoints Tristan Allen to sanitation helper position in Municipal Works Waste Management Division.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, congratulations to Tristan.
Town Board Resolution 1014 of 2023, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is a notice of public hearing to consider aquatic habitat restoration and non-point source abatement and control projects proposed for the 2023 Community Preservation Fund, CPF, 20% water quality improvement plan funding.
So those are the other ones.
Yes.
Yep.
Those are,
Seconded
the
by
next ones are
Councilman-
the restoration ones.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone for a hearing on September 12th.
Afternoon meeting, right?
At
Yes.
1 PM, afternoon meeting. All right, I'll call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Who was the second?
Councilman Scavone.
Thank you.
1015 of 2023, authorize the acceptance of funds from a New York State eminent domain account for property acquired for the Southampton, Bridgehampton Storm Drainage Improvement Project.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Okay,
Little-
then we have one more.
I think you have a warrant.
There was the rock on.
There was a warrant.
All right, 44073 is warrant number 16, capital 16, CPF 16, and payroll liability.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Okay, that gets us to the end of our agenda. Is there any other business? Hearing none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.